Chapter 323. Everyone headed towards the depths of the mystic realm at an extremely fast speed. Basically, the demon beasts below the third level took turns to go up. The fourth and fifth level demon beasts all went up together. Little Uncle Master went up for those above the fifth level. And those above the eighth level were not allowed to go up, so they turned and ran. Along the way they had great teamwork. Although there were a few close calls, fortunately there were no major problems. After all, this mystic realm was only a small golden core mystic realm. I Ching led the group to clear the monsters in the mystic realm for more than 20 days, until the storage bag beside him could not hold any more meat. Then he turned to everyone and said, "Let's go back." The disciples, who were already holding a pile of demon cores of their own spirit roots, all nodded in gratitude. Finally, there was no need to continue. Otherwise the demon beasts in this mystic realm would probably go extinct. Everyone flew up on their swords at the fastest speed, intending to fly back. But suddenly there was a flash of green light not far away, and with a bang, it exploded in the air, slowly forming the shape of a flower. "This is the distress signal of Red and Green sect," a disciple exclaimed. "It's not far from here. I think someone is in danger." Everyone turned to look at the person leading them inquiringly. I Ching frowned and turned to look at everyone. "Be careful, let's go over and take a look." With that said, he turned and flew in the direction of the fading pattern on his sword. The disciples also summoned their spirit swords and followed. This was already the depths of the mystic realm, and it was almost impossible to meet people from other sections. There were very few people who saw the distress signal sent here, and it was possible that there was no one else nearby except for them. Although they were not from their own sect, they were all immortal sects, so they naturally had to help if they could. The direction of the signal was not far, and the few of them arrived within a few minutes. I Ching was the first to arrive. He had already landed, and was looking ahead with a solemn expression. In front of him was a pitch-black swamp, shrouded in a faint layer of black qi, as if the entire swamp was boiling, and it was bubbling disgustingly. There were also some unactivated Dharma talismans floating on the swamp. "Little Uncle Master." All the disciples landed and looked at the swamp in front of them. "What is this? Why is there so much demonic qi in the swamp?" Before he had time to think about it, a surprised voice sounded. "Big brother next door, it's you." Everyone was stunned, and turned to look at the center of the quagmire. They saw a large tree in the center of the quagmire tremble. Its branches and leaves split apart, revealing a slightly childish face. He was dressed in a pink robe, and looked to be about 13 or 14 years old. Half of his body was already in the mud, and he was holding onto a tree branch with one hand, as if he was afraid of falling. Perhaps the tree she had grabbed was too dense, so no one had noticed it before. "It's a junior sister." The disciple behind I Ching panicked, and subconsciously took 2 steps forward. "Wait! No!" The girl in the swamp and I Ching exclaimed at the same time, but it was too late. The disciple had already stepped into the swamp, and in the next moment, the entire swamp seemed to be activated. Suddenly, a huge black wave rose up and rushed towards the giant. "Back off!" I Ching reminded loudly. At the same time, he waved his sword and cut off the black wave. He took a few steps back. "Little martial uncle behind us!" a disciple exclaimed. Looking back, he saw that the swamp had already circled behind them and surrounded them, trapping them in the middle. "Sword kinesis!" I Ching reminded everyone to fly. All the disciples began to conjure hand seals, but it was too late. The swamp had already spread to their feet. The spirit qi that they had just gathered was instantly emptied. His body sank down uncontrollably. "This swamp can absorb spirit qi." All the disciples were shocked. I Ching frowned. Seeing that everyone was about to be swallowed by the swamp, he tightened his grip on the sword in his hand. Sword qi exploded from all over his body, and the sword in his hand danced quickly and hurriedly. Thousands of sword qi appeared, and struck the black swamp. Taking advantage of the moment when the swamp dispersed, he directly threw the trapped disciples out one by one. But this would only make him sink deeper into the swamp. "Little martial uncle." All the disciples could see his plan. For a moment they were touched and anxious. If this went on, he would not be able to go back. "Go!" I Ching said in a low voice. Finally, he threw the last disciple out and let himself sink deeper and deeper into the swamp. He said in front of Master that he would take good care of these disciples, so no one could be left behind. Little martial uncle. Everyone shouted anxiously, but they could only watch as the black swamp submerged I Ching's head. Together with the girl from Red and Green sect, they were completely submerged in darkness. In the guest room of Divine Heaven's sect, Shening, who was eating, suddenly stood up. What are you doing? Lo Moon glanced at her. Shening tilted her head. After a while, she sat back with a normal expression. Nothing, my back hurts after sitting for too long. TCH, crazy. Madame Nio's face was full of disdain. Senior brother. What do we do? The rescued disciples flew in the sky on their swords, looking anxiously at the swamp that was no longer moving. Tears flowed uncontrollably. It was because of them that little martial uncle was trapped. Wait. The disciple with the highest cultivation among them gritted his teeth. Little martial uncle is so powerful. He can even defeat a 7th-level demon beast. He must be fine now. No matter what, we have to wait for him to come out. That's right. I believe in little martial uncle. He will definitely come out. The other disciples nodded. Me too. I will wait here until he comes out. Me too. He saved our lives. At most, we'll fight it out with this swamp and pay for it with our lives. Alright, then we'll stay. We'll wait here for a day. If little martial uncle doesn't come back by then, we'll rush in. Alright. Everyone nodded and sat down on their swords. As they meditated to recover their spirit chi, they stared closely at the swamp below them. For a moment, they seemed to have forgotten that the entire mystic realm would close in 3 days. I Ching felt his vision go black. His whole body sank downwards. He could not gather any spirit chi. It was as if he had been sucked dry. His body became heavier and heavier, as if something was squeezing him. He could faintly hear the sound of wind, and it was getting closer. His heart tightened. He summoned all the sword chi in his body and subconsciously surrounded his body. With a series of crashing sounds, something bounced away from his body. That squeezing feeling disappeared. His surroundings were still pitch black. He could only use his divine perception to explore. Only then did he realize that he was sinking continuously. It was as if he was a bottomless pit. He could faintly see a large area of demonic chi condensed into wind blades. They were making crashing sounds, as if forming a wall of wind blades, directly blocking the surrounding black swamp. Chapter 324. At the edge of the wind wall, a pink figure was sinking, but the other party did not seem to feel anything. Even if her body was hit by the wind blades, she did not react for a long time. I Ching recalled that she was the one who had sent the distress signal. He immediately sent a stream of sword chi over and circled around her, blocking off the wind blades and the surrounding mud. The two of them directly sank down towards the bottom of the wind blades. After about a quarter of an hour, the surrounding wind blades and swamps had disappeared. There was still a faint light at the bottom, and the spiritual energy around them had strangely recovered a little. They should be reaching the bottom soon. I Ching mobilized his spirit chi and directly flew down on his sword, grabbing the little girl who was asking for help. Sure enough, in a short while, he landed on an open space. It was clearly underground, but suddenly it seemed to be a space that was deliberately isolated. It was very spacious, but it was still pitch black. I Ching glanced at the little girl on the ground, pinched a spell, and pointed between her eyebrows. In the next moment, the little girl woke up. Where is this? She looked around in panic. I Ching summoned a ball of fire, temporarily illuminating the surroundings. Only then did the little girl see I Ching beside her. She was shocked at first, and then she was overjoyed. Brother next door. It's you, that's great. I see you again. You are. I Ching frowned. Had they met before? It's me. She hurriedly pointed to her face and said, I'm Nio Nio, the Nio Nio who used to live next door to you. I Ching was stunned for a moment. A little girl with a runny nose flashed in his mind, and he looked at her with some surprise. Your Grandma Wang's granddaughter? Yes. She nodded hard. I've always remembered little brother. So you've become a cultivator too, and so am I. I joined the Red and Green sect. and Master gave me a new name. I'm called Lily now. I Ching nodded, still looking cold and serious. This is the bottom of that swamp. It's dangerous. We have to be careful at all times. The little girl called Lily nodded and hurriedly climbed up. I'll be careful, and follow the brother next door. My name is I Ching. He looked around. There might be an entrance here. Let's take a look around. Lily instantly became nervous and hurriedly followed. Her eyes were full of trust for the person beside her. The two of them walked forward for a quarter of an hour, but did not find anything. Only then did I Ching realize that this place was huge. Moreover, it was very spacious. Apart from a few pillars that seemed to be supporting pillars, nothing else could be seen. However, the pillars were all engraved with strange runes. They didn't look like the characters of cultivators. Moreover, they seemed to be from many years ago, and the writing was somewhat blurred. The two of them walked for a period of time. Even the pillars were no longer intact. Many had already collapsed. I Ching felt that they should not be far from the border. Suddenly, a burst of light appeared in front of them, as if some kind of spell technique had been activated. There was a loud rumble. I Ching frowned and glanced at the person behind him. At the same time, he rode on his sword and flew in that direction. The next moment, a huge mansion suddenly appeared in front of them. It was just that the outside was wrapped in a layer of black demonic aura. The demonic aura was very thick, and did not look like it could be easily broken. And in front of the demonic aura stood a person. He was wearing a greenish-gray long robe. His hair was somewhat messy. He was constantly attacking the demonic aura, as if he was trying his best to break in. Who is it? The other party seemed to have noticed them. He turned around and looked behind him. I Ching and Lily had no choice but to fly down and land a few feet away from the other party. I Ching, it's you. The other party's eyes suddenly shrank. Many emotions flashed across his face in an instant. It seemed to be surprise, unwillingness, and resentment. After a moment, all of them were put away. He looked at the other party with a gloomy face. I didn't expect that you also have some skills. You actually made it here. I Ching was stunned. His face was blank. You are? Who? The other party's face stiffened. His whole person seemed to be ignited. His anger came out with a whoosh. He looked at him, as if he was going to bite. You dare to say that you don't know me? I don't know you, he answered instantly. You. The other party was even angrier. His face twisted. He looked like he was about to come out and stab him a few times. After a while, no one knew what he thought of. He took a deep breath and held it in. He gritted his teeth and said, I'm Jing Qi. Jing. Qi. I Ching lowered his head and thought seriously. His frown deepened. As the other party's eyes looked more and more like he was going to eat him, his eyes lit up. It seemed that he finally remembered. Oh, dog. Who's a dog? Your whole family is a dog. So it's brother dog. Lily's eyes lit up. She stepped forward with a look of excitement. Brother dog, you are also an immortal cultivator. That's great. I'm Nyo brother dog. Do you still remember brother dog? I didn't expect to see your brother dog again. Jing Qi only felt that his heart was stabbed again and again. His mind was full of brother dog and the other two people. But he couldn't get angry. After clenching his teeth for a long time, he finally endured it. Nyo. His face twisted several times. There was no joy of reuniting with an old friend on his face. He seemed to be desperately trying to force a smile, but it only made him look more ferocious. You have a new name now, right? Of course, I'm called Lily. Master gave it to me. Lily. I'm called Jing Qi now. You can call me Jing Qi. Okay, brother dog. No problem, brother dog. He really wanted to kill someone. Where is this place? I Ching suddenly spoke, interrupting someone's rising murderous aura. Jing Qi was stunned. Only then did he remember his purpose. He took a deep breath and calmed down. When he got that thing, and got out of this mystic realm, he would definitely get back at him for what he had suffered today. He took a step forward and said, I don't know either. I've been trapped here for 3 days. I can roughly see that this might be a relic of an ancient mighty. Relic? Lily was shocked. And an ancient one. Although she was young, she had also heard that all relic was a great opportunity. Something flashed in Jing Qi's eyes. He continued, In front of us should be the residence of the person who built this mystic realm. But the outside is surrounded by this demonic aura. I can't get in. He pointed to the front and revealed a hearty and generous smile. Since we came from the same village, we should be of the same breath and branches and help each other. Why don't we work together to rush in today and share the opportunities inside? Brother Dog, is this demonic aura very powerful? Lily frowned. The corner of Jing Qi's mouth twitched again. He thought of the serious matter and nodded. It's indeed very powerful. I tried my best but couldn't rush in. I'm afraid that only the three of us working together can break through. Chapter 325. I Ching looked around, turned around, walked to the side and squatted down. There seems to be a way to break through here. The two were shocked and immediately surrounded it. Sure enough, there seemed to be some pattern engraved on the side. Because they were on the ground, Jing Qi had not noticed it before. Because of the age, the handwriting was no longer clear. Only the pattern on the top could be seen clearly. There were three people whose faces could not be seen clearly, but they could vaguely guess that they were two men and one woman. One had a sword, one had a flute in his hand, and the last one was holding something that they could not see clearly. Could it be that this demonic qi really needs three people to work together to break through? Jing Qi's eyes lit up, and he turned to look at the two. Why don't the three of us work together and attack this demonic qi barrier? Okay. Lily nodded. I Ching was silent for a while, and also nodded. Only then did the three of them take a step forward. Circulating their spiritual energy, they attacked the thick demonic energy together. The demonic energy barrier twisted and began to shake. Finally there was some movement. Jing Qi was overjoyed. He urged everyone to use their full strength. It's about to open. They had to mobilize more spirit qi again. But this time, it was like a clay ox entering the sea, and there was not much reaction. I Ching frowned, and with a thought, he directly changed the spirit qi into sword qi to attack the demonic qi. Suddenly, the demonic qi barrier seemed to be cut by something, and instantly a hole appeared. Jing Qi's eyes narrowed, and he suddenly retracted his hand. Before the two of them could react, his figure flashed and rushed into the hole. Brother Dog. Lily was shocked, and before she could react, the figure of the other party was already gone. Only then did she realize that she had been cheated, and instantly her face turned red with anger. He is too much, and he said he wanted to go in together. Sure enough, he was the same as when he was young, only knowing how to bully other children. I Ching looked at the closed entrance, and did not speak. He just changed the sword move in his hand, and in an instant, thousands of sword qi shot directly towards the demonic qi in front of him. In the next moment, the demonic qi seemed to have met some natural enemy, and began to dissipate inch by inch. In a short while the entire demonic qi barrier disappeared. Go in, I Ching said and turned to walk in. Lily was stunned, and then followed in. If they had known that Brother I Ching could do it alone, why did they have to do it just now? For some reason, he suddenly wanted to see Brother Dog's expression. As Lily expected, when Brother Dog saw the two of them walking towards him, he had a look of exasperation. He thought that they would come in sooner or later, but he didn't think it would be so soon. They were just a few steps behind him. I was going to try to break the demonic aura from the inside, but I didn't expect you guys to already be here. He smiled, as if he did not want to clash with them, and subconsciously pressed his hand on his storage bag. The two of them obviously didn't believe him. Humph! Lily was young, so she directly snorted at him, and was about to say something. I Ching suddenly spoke. Where's the exit? It was as if he had already guessed that Lone Moon would rush in first, but completely ignored him. Jing Qi's face darkened. It was that expression again. It was as if he didn't see him in his eyes at all. He clenched his fists tightly by his side. He didn't think that his choice just now was wrong. In this world the strong were respected. He was just grasping the opportunity at the right time. However, when he saw how nonchalant the other party was, he couldn't help but feel angry. He felt sullen, as if he was being looked down on by someone standing at the top. They were clearly from the same village. What right did he have to look at him like this? This should be the center of this mystic realm. There must be an exit to return to the surface. Seeing that the other party didn't answer, I Ching didn't care and continued. This mansion isn't big. Let's split up and search. With that said, he glanced at Lily, turned around and chose a direction to go. Lily nodded, and also went in a direction to find the exit. Before she left, she even snorted loudly in Jing Qi's direction. Jing Qi's face darkened. His hands moved, and he also chose a direction to look for other opportunities. She was just a girl who hadn't reached foundation establishment. He didn't care about her. He subconsciously touched his storage bag. When he got out, he wouldn't need much. He would make these people who looked down on him pay the price. Although this mansion didn't look big, there were countless rooms. There were also many holes in the ground floor, and because of the long years, the things inside had been weathered, leaving only a thick layer of dust. The few of them searched inside for several hours, but they didn't find anything at all, let alone the exit, until I Ching's voice suddenly sounded. Lower right, come here. The other two who were searching were stunned, and then rushed over. They rushed towards the room that I Ching mentioned. The two arrived at almost the same time. Once they entered the room, they saw a white light in front of them. There was an array in the room. It looked like it had just been activated by the wind. It should have been triggered when I Ching came in. This was the innermost and largest room in this ancient relic. The surrounding walls were engraved with traces of other array formations. But only the array formation with white light in front seemed to be activated. The white light was very gentle, without any murderous aura. Anyway, there was a kind of gentle and calm aura, and they couldn't tell what it was for. There should be a way out of here, I Ching said, then turned to look at the surrounding array formations that had failed. It was just that he didn't have a deep understanding of array formations, so he couldn't tell what those arrays were for. Lily was a pill cultivator, and she was also at the Qi refinement stage, so she couldn't see anything. Instead, Jing Qi took 2 steps forward. He didn't intend to study the array formation, but for some reason, his feet suddenly lit up, as if he had touched something. The bright array formation in front of him shone brightly with white light, sweeping towards everyone. Jing Qi was shocked. He quickly stepped back and hurriedly summoned his spirit sword. Before he left the room, a deep male voice suddenly sounded in the room. The fated person who obtained my essence restoring pearl. Suddenly a translucent snow-white figure appeared in the room. It looked like a middle-aged man with a smile on his lips. He was looking straight in the direction of the door. It's an illusion, I Ching said in a low voice. It should be an image left by the owner of this relic when he was alive. Sure enough, in less than a moment, the figure continued to speak in a low voice. This noble one is called Yu Shui. I am the leader of the demon realm, the king of demons. King of demons. The few of them took a deep breath. They didn't expect that this mystic realm was actually built by the demon clan. I have cultivated for thousands of years, and was fortunate enough to become the king of demons. This is the only one in the demon realm. It was all because I was fortunate enough to meet a noble person who connected the 2 realms of humans and demons with his omnipotent ability. This allowed the sect and the demon clan to eliminate the estrangement and live in harmony for 10,000 years. With the help of the Great Tao, there were countless people in both the human and demon realms who ascended and became immortals. Since then, the demon clan was able to create the real Tao-seeking method. Chapter 326. Today, I'm about to ascend to the immortal world. Remembering the bloodthirsty nature of the demons in my race, I'm afraid that the 2 races will once again become enemies and lose the right path of the Great Tao. Using the origin returning pearl as a contract, I hope that the fated person will obtain it and pass it on to my descendants. Remember that life and death are all karma. Getting rid of the murderous heart and jumping out of one's nature is the path of immortal ascension. As soon as he finished speaking, the illusion became fainter and fainter. There seemed to be golden light shining on him from all directions, and the voice became even fainter. I hope that I can see Great Immortal again in my life, and thank her for enlightening my race. In the next moment, the phantom completely disappeared, and even the flashing white array formation dimmed. It was as if it had never appeared. Lily summoned a fireball and lit up the room again. She looked confused. That illusion just now, what did it mean? She was a little confused, but she vaguely guessed that this should be the place where the demon race used to live. But the other party ascended, so he left this place behind. I Ching shook his head. He didn't hear it very clearly either. That illusion must have been talking about something that happened a long time ago. He was a little surprised that there was a time when humans and demons actually lived in harmony. By right, demons loved to eat humans and were untamable. The cultivators were all mortals in the past, so when the two races met, it had always been a life and death battle. Either the humans were eaten by the demons, or the demons were killed, and their inner cores were taken out. Other than that, there was no other way. Only the demon king guarding the mountain and honesty sect had no choice but to submit because of the blood contract. Aren't we looking for a way out? Jingqi suddenly reminded, breaking the two's thoughts. Let's hurry and find what else is here. A hint of nervousness flashed across his face. He started to look around, afraid that if the two continued thinking, they would ask about the origin returning pearl sooner or later. He subconsciously touched the storage bag beside him. It turned out that the pearl he saw flying around when he rushed in was actually a treasure left behind by a mighty cultivator who was about to ascend. He suddenly felt excited. As long as he could get out, his cultivation would definitely increase by another level. He might even have the possibility of forming his core. The two came back to their senses. They really didn't continue thinking about the illusion, and were about to look around carefully. Suddenly, the ground shook, and the sound of something falling could be heard. There were even bricks and tiles falling from above. This place is about to collapse. Get out! I Ching reminded and flew up on his sword. The other two reacted as well. One after another, they used their mounts to rush out. Their surroundings were collapsing even faster. Several times they were almost smashed. It was not easy for them to fly out. When he turned around, he saw that the entire mansion had been turned into ruins, and the ground was shaking nonstop. Look, something is rising from the ground. Lily pointed to the center and exclaimed. The two of them looked over. Sure enough, something was slowly protruding from the middle of the ruins. Suddenly, something was breaking out of the ground. Not long after, the surrounding bricks and tiles fell, and a huge stone statue suddenly rose from the ground. The stone statue was very tall, even wider than the ruins that had just collapsed. It slowly rose higher and higher, until it reached the top of the pitch-black sky. At this time, the upper half of the stone statue appeared in front of the giant. It was a woman, and in her hand was a round fruit-like artifact. He narrowed his eyes, and that face. Why do I find him a little familiar? Lily was stunned. Jingqi was also shocked. This isn't. He reflexively turned to look at I Ching beside him, only to see that he was completely stunned. He stared straight at the stone statue in front of him with wide eyes. After a while he murmured, Master? Jingqi's face darkened. This stone statue was the woman with the surname Shun, who had eaten at I Ching's house. She was also the master who later took him in as a disciple. But why would her stone statue appear in this mystic realm, and in the mansion of the owner of the ruins? He suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. He could not understand the person beside him anymore. Looking at the other's stunned look, he could not help but say sarcastically, that master of yours still has a lot of secrets. It seems that your master-disciple relationship is nothing more than this. I Ching's expression changed. He turned to look over, and his eyes instantly turned as cold as ice. An overwhelming sword chi directly rushed toward the other party. Jingqi's eyes widened suddenly, and his heart suddenly stopped. His whole body felt like it had fallen into an ice cave. All the meridians in his body seemed to be frozen in an instant, as if he would die in the next moment. There's an exit up there. Lily, who was beside him, suddenly exclaimed and pointed to the top of the stone statue. The stone statue rose up and directly pushed away the black wind blades above, as well as the swamp that seemed to have a life of its own. They could get out by following the direction of the stone statue. I Ching then turned to look up and said in a low voice, Let's go. He directly turned and flew up, and Lily immediately followed. Jingqi took 2 deep breaths, and pressed on the position of his chest. He then looked at I Ching, who was not far away. It must have been an illusion just now. I Ching was only a foundation establishment cultivator. How could he have such a terrifying sword aura? His face darkened, and he felt a little dazed just now. Only then did he follow out. Because the statue directly pushed away the layer of swamp, the few of them flew out smoothly, and were no longer entangled. Little Uncle Master. As soon as he flew out, the disciples who had been waiting in the air for a day immediately surrounded him. There were even some younger disciples who couldn't control themselves and burst into tears. Little Uncle Master, wow, you really came out. We were all scared to death. Yes, Little Uncle Master. You don't even know that we burned the incense. If you didn't come out in a moment, we would have rushed in. Little Uncle Master, wow. That's great, Little Uncle Master. I'm not dreaming, right? You're really alive. Little Junior Brother, don't cry. Your snot is going to rub on it. Sob, 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 I'm happy. I Ching still had that cold and serious look on his face. He frowned and took a few steps back, staying further away from the disciple with a runny nose. He turned to look at the incense stick on the ground that was about to burn out and asked, "Is everyone here?" The disciples nodded. "They're all here. No one is missing. There were also a few Danqing sect disciples at the scene, surrounding Lily to check on her. They might have rushed over, because of the previous distress signal. For a moment only Jing Qi's side was empty. There was not a single person there. He glanced at I Ching, who was surrounded by the disciples, and his expression became even more sinister. He snorted coldly and flew away without saying anything. The others did not notice at all. Maybe no one cared. Instead, a few senior sisters from Lily's side came over and thanked I Ching solemnly. I Ching nodded and did not say much. It was just a small effort. He would take it as a return to Grandma Wang for taking care of him back then. After calculating the time, he led the disciples and flew in the direction of the mystic realm's exit. But his frown did not loosen. There seemed to be something between his brows. Master. Chapter 327. In this trip to the mystic realm, Honesty Sect achieved unprecedented success. It was different from other sects who gained a lot of spirit herbs and resources. The disciples of Honesty Sect brought back a pile of demon cores. Lu Hong looked at the mountain-like demon cores handed over by the disciples, and his mouth twitched. He had the illusion that his own disciples cleared the mystic realm of all demon beasts. After checking the demon cores, and making sure there was no aura harmful to cultivation, he waved his hand, and asked the disciples to keep the demon cores. I Ching was indeed the disciple of a supremacy. The number of demon beasts his team gained was more than all the disciples who went in for training over the years. It was even more than 10 times that of his adult son Lu Tao's team. Lu Tao was very sad about this. He wanted to pick up demon cores with Little Uncle Master, but his father insisted that he lead another team. They already got a lot of demon cores this time, okay? He was not the first hero, but the second. Lu Tao was a little upset. What made him even more upset was, after the disciples who followed Little Uncle Master's team came back, most of their cultivation actually increased. Even those who did not, their swordsmanship improved a lot. Little Uncle Master even formed his core directly. So Lu Hong turned around and locked his son in the sword array without a word. Look at him. To I Ching, forming a core was no different from meditating and drawing qi into his body. There was not even a lightning bolt, and his golden core was formed. But Lone Moon casually attracted a few bolts of lightning beside him, saying that it was just for show, and also to tell everyone that he formed his core. He looked at the golden core inside his body, and suddenly a feeling of uncertainty arose in his heart. He frowned, as if thinking of something, and a look of confusion flashed across his face. So that night, Shining looked at the person beside the bed and sighed deeply. Sending supper? Shaking his head. Sending drinks. Still shaking his head. Sending fruits. Still shaking his head. Trying out new dishes? Still shaking his head. Oh! Shining pulled the blanket and lay down again, continuing to sleep. 10 minutes later, the blanket was lifted, and Shining sat up directly. Chef, Master, I really can't sleep with you staring at me like this. What is it? Can you just say it? I Ching's expression darkened, and he lowered his head slightly. Something flashed across his eyes, and he took a step forward. His eyes seemed to hide a vast ocean. After hesitating for a while, he asked, Master, back then, why did you accept me as your disciple? Huh? Shening turned around and blurted out, You know how to cook. Was that so hard to understand? It was an expected answer. But I Ching still felt relieved. He stepped forward and asked anxiously, What else? That's it. Disciples and whatnot were very troublesome. Is that so? His face darkened. Is there anything else? She really wanted to sleep. The turbulence in I Ching's eyes slowly calmed down. He focused on the person in front of him. A moment later, the corners of his mouth lifted to reveal a smile. That's all. Actually, I haven't seen Master for a whole month. I'm worried about how Master is doing these days, so I came to see. Oh. Shening tilted her head and looked at the young man in front of her. Her expression darkened. So you stared at me for 3 nights? I Ching was stunned. He sat down on the edge of her bed. His expression darkened. If I don't see Master, I can't be at ease. He felt as if she would disappear in the blink of an eye. His expression softened. Then he added, And Master often kicks the blanket in the middle of the night. I. His expression was conflicted. It was obvious that he wanted to say something, but he couldn't say it. It made people want to bully him for no reason. Shen Ying's expression darkened. The urge to bully a little child emerged in her heart once again. Suddenly, she leaned forward towards the person beside the bed. She was so close that she was almost touching him. I say, little chef, do you know that it's very dangerous to run to the bed of an older single woman in the middle of the night? Shen Ying's sudden approach startled Lone Moon. Her warm voice swept across his face. Instantly, he felt his face heating up. His heartbeat quickened. His eyes widened as he subconsciously replied, What? Danger? You want to know? Shening leaned even closer to him. She stared at his entire face, which was dyed red. Think about it. Oh. Shening suddenly reached out and pulled his collar forward. Then with a flip of her body, she threw the person in front of her onto the bed. She turned around and pressed on top of him. She sat on top of him. Who asked you to send yourself to me? With a swoosh, she pulled open the clothes in front of his chest and pressed one hand against his burning chest. Her eyes narrowed into a line. She smiled like a big bad wolf. There's a danger of losing your virginity. I Ching's entire body froze. His mouth was slightly agape as he looked at the person in front of him. He couldn't react for a long time, until Shen Ying's hand slid down from his chest. With an evil smile, she slowly moved to the belt at the side of his waist. He trembled. Subconsciously, he grabbed her hand. Shening didn't move again. She just narrowed her eyes and looked at him. Master? What? I changed my mind. I want to go back to sleep. No. I often heard people say that I'm a human cauldron that Master has been raising since I was young. I didn't believe it in the past. But now, it's really? What? No matter what Master does, disciple is willing. It's just that I've never learned it. Disciple doesn't know how. Master, my heart is beating so fast. Is this normal? Master, human cauldron. How do you do it? She looked at the person in front of her. His face was pure and sincere. He was looking at her with trust. Shening felt that her conscience was being hit hard. Each hit was heavier than the last. Instantly, all the mischievous thoughts that had accumulated in her heart, and the half a bit of eagerness to try it out, were all gone. Suddenly, she remembered that the person under her was still a 16-year-old young man. The heart of the old auntie, who teased fresh meat, was broken. She completely could not do it. The corner of her mouth twitched. She turned and rolled to the bottom of the wall. Her back was facing the person behind her. She even purposely arched her body like a shrimp. She arched a certain someone outwards. Her entire person was exuding a decadent aura. Master. Sleep. Oh. A while later, Master. A careful voice. Have you finished plucking? Actually, she felt that something was wrong. Shut up. Oh. Another while later. Master? An even more careful voice. Actually, I can still take it. Why don't you pluck again? Scram. Shening couldn't take it anymore. She kicked the person on the bed off. Chef who had lost his memory wasn't cute at all. Chapter 328. He didn't know how Lone Moon fooled them, but more and more Divine Heaven's sect disciples came to Honesty Sect, and all of them were sword cultivators who came to challenge the sword array. Honesty Sect received so many spirit stones that their hands were sore, and it was more than 10 times more expensive than the spirit stones used to enter the mystic realm. Lu Hong was confused about this, and didn't even know when Lone Moon and the Divine Heaven's sect master agreed on this. Why did every Divine Heaven's sect disciple look like they got a great deal, when they clearly paid a huge price to enter the sword array that disciples could enter at will? Besides, although Supremacy Lone Moon's sword array was exquisite, other sects had it, not to mention a big sect like Divine Heaven's sect. The only advantage was that even nascent soul cultivators could enter the sword array. Lu Hong was full of doubts, until the sect welcomed the first batch of nascent soul cultivators. The spirit stones each cultivator brought made him even more speechless, almost as much as Honesty Sect's income in half a year. He couldn't help but ask. "Oh," Lone Moon answered matter-of-factly. "I told them that within 3 years, other than our sect, only Divine Heaven's sect's nascent soul cultivators can enter the sword array." The premium exclusive membership price was of course more expensive. Lu Hong. So that was it. It didn't matter if their own sect didn't have many nascent soul cultivators, but there were many in the 3 Azure realms. But it was extremely difficult to ascend to the soul formation stage. 9 out of 10 failed. Mainly because they lacked the opportunity to ascend, it was very difficult to find a place to train. So a sword array that could allow nascent soul cultivators to enter would naturally attract the attention of various sections. The earlier they entered, the earlier they had the chance to ascend. As the number 1 immortal sect, Divine Heaven's sect was naturally willing to have a few more soul formation cultivators, and the sooner the better. The sooner they became the number 1 immortal sect, the more stable their position would be. Naturally, they were willing to pay any price, and their Honesty Sect gave Divine Heaven's sect so much convenience. Presumably, the relationship between the 2 sects would be different in the future, and it would be more beneficial to Honesty Sect. As expected of a soul formation supremacy, he had already thought so far ahead. As the sect master, he was really ashamed. "Supremacy, you are really far-sighted." He cupped his fists and bowed seriously, having the urge to throw out the position of sect master for the umpteenth time. Lone Moon, who only wanted to raise the price, so he pulled a living signboard. Reality proved that Lone Moon's sword array was indeed very useful. In just a few years, the cultivation of the disciples in the sect had reached a new level. There were even some disciples who were originally at the golden core stage, who successfully formed their nascent souls. Wu Wang was no longer a sect that only had 2 nascent soul cultivators. It was the same for the people from Divine Heaven's sect, especially the few nascent soul cultivators. After coming out of the array, although they didn't directly advance to the soul formation stage, the cultivators who hadn't moved for many years had more or less loosened up. Everyone was pleasantly surprised, and they were even more generous with their spirit stones. Some even took the initiative to increase the price. Honesty Sect's treasury was filled up at a visible speed, and they were completely out of poverty. To this, Lone Moon felt that it was too boring to farm low-level instance dungeons. After handing everything over to Lu Hong, he didn't care anymore, and focused on watching I Ching's cultivation. He was determined to prevent Shening from pulling him astray to become a body cultivator. This went on for 3 years. Since returning from that mystic realm, I Ching didn't know what stimulated him, but he became more and more diligent in his cultivation. His set of sword techniques became more and more perfect. His original cultivation was there, and he just lacked the recovery of spirit power. Once he got serious, his cultivation rose even more. In less than 3 years, he directly reached the golden core stage and was about to form his nascent soul. Lone Moon could only stop him. How long had he been cultivating? In less than 6 years he formed his core. He could still explain that he had an epiphany in the mystic realm, but to form his nascent soul in less than 10 years was too scary. Although they weren't afraid of others coveting him, he hadn't recovered his previous memories after all. If he jumped too fast, something would really happen to his body. Then all their efforts would be in vain. To this, I Ching didn't say anything. Stuck at the half-step nascent soul stage, he really stopped when he said so. What? Sect competition? Lone Moon glanced at Lu Hong, who was smiling confidently. That's right. Lu Hong nodded and said, there is a sect competition in the 3 Azure Realms every 10 years, and each sect takes turns to host it. In recent years, the disciples in the sect have been quite active in cultivating. It's a good thing to be able to participate in the competition. Yes, then let's go. Why tell him? But Lu Hong looked troubled. Looking at Lone Moon's expression, he gritted his teeth and said, the sect competition this time, the various sects suggested, to be held in our sect. What? Lone Moon glanced at him. It was written all over his face that if he wanted to hold it here, would they pay? Lu Hong wiped his cold sweat. In the past, the sect competition was always held in first-class sects like Divine Heaven's sect and Mystic Essence sect. I don't know why, but this time they want to hold it here? Although in recent years, especially after Supremacy Lone Moon came, Honesty Sect's financial strength had improved, especially in terms of financial strength, but ultimately Immortal Sect's valued strength. Honesty Sect only had 2 soul formation supremacies, so it naturally couldn't be counted as a first-class sect. What do you think? Lone Moon frowned. Hosting the sect's grand ceremony is an important thing to raise the sect's status, and it's just providing a venue for the competition. I think it's worth a try. Lu Hong nodded and said, since you've already settled it, you can arrange it. Lone Moon nodded. Thinking of something, he added, oh yes, from tomorrow onwards, the sword array will be temporarily sealed. Just tell those Divine Heaven's sect nascent soul cultivators that it's for the preparation for the competition. Lu Hong's eyes brightened, and he instantly understood something. He nodded hard. Lu Hong understands, pushing the sect competition to a mid-tier sect. Anyone could guess that all the sects had their own reasons. And the only thing that could make people think about Honesty Sect was that sword array. Yet in these 3 years, they only accepted Divine Heaven's sect disciples into the array. The other sects probably heard the news long ago, and wanted to take advantage of the sect competition to find out more about the void, and also to send their disciples to try it out. Even Divine Heaven's sect probably didn't know about this, so the other sects directly informed Lu Hong. That was why Lone Moon closed the sword array and let the Divine Heaven's sect cultivators go back to report. But to Honesty Sect, this really wasn't a loss. Back then, Lone Moon had promised 3 years. Now that the time limit had passed, in theory, it wouldn't matter if other sects went. But the key was that the number of people entering the sword array was limited. If other sects entered, then Divine Heaven's sect's people would correspondingly decrease. It would be strange if they weren't anxious. So in order to get a few more places, Divine Heaven's sect would naturally do their best to help in this sect competition, so that they could get a few more places to enter the array. And Honesty Sect just had to lie down and earn money. Chapter 329. Oh yes, about the name list of the disciples participating in the competition. Lu Hong's eyes brightened, and he said expectantly, the Qi Refinement and Foundation Establishment disciples are easy to arrange, but the Golden Core disciples are a bit difficult. You want I Ching to participate? Lone Moon was shocked, and instantly guessed what he meant. Lu Zhang smiled and nodded and said excitedly, I Ching is the disciple of 2 supremacies. He is very talented, and in the mystic realm, he even directly comprehended the core formation. I think he can definitely help our sect to obtain the Golden Core. No. Before he finished, Lone Moon rejected him instantly. He doesn't need to prove anything at all. He won't participate in any competition. He knew I Ching's current cultivation best. He was already half a step away from nascent soul. If he participated in another competition, with his little cheat's attributes, it was possible for him to directly reach soul formation instead of nascent soul. Supremacy. Lu Hong didn't expect him to reject him. After all, this was the best chance to become famous in one battle. He was stunned and subconsciously retorted, but in my sect there is. Lu Hong. Lone Moon's face darkened. We joined Honesty Sect, and naturally we will help the sect in all aspects. So we will do whatever we can. But as for I Ching, please remember, he is only Shen Ying's disciple, that's all. No matter who it is, it's best not to have any other thoughts otherwise. Looking at him, he said word by word in a stern tone that he had never used before. When some people come for real, you can't afford it. Lu Hong stiffened, and a chill rose from the bottom of his heart. His whole body instantly felt cold. Lone Moon didn't say much, but just patted him on the shoulder and turned to leave. Lone Moon was right. After he removed the sword array, in less than 2 days, Divine Essence Sect sent a large group of disciples over, saying that they would help Honesty Sect organize the sect competition, and they brought their own Dharma artifacts and all kinds of equipment. Another floating peak was raised outside the sect, and all kinds of competition venues were built on it, as well as residences for disciples. Even without Lu Hong's mention, the other party took the initiative to find him, and explained all the matters and precautions of the competition in detail. Putting aside the money and effort, the level of enthusiasm made it seem as if the one hosting the competition was the Divine Heavens Sect, and not Honesty Sect. When it was time for the sect competition, the sect leader of Divine Heavens Sect, Dong Wu, even personally led the team and brought all the disciples, which was a great show of respect to Honesty Sect. Many people from the various sects had come as well. It was about the same as what he had guessed. Sure enough, their purpose for coming here was not just the tournament. In less than 2 days, almost half of the sect leaders had asked him about the sword formation, either explicitly or implicitly. After all, he had been the sect leader for so many years. Lu Hong did not agree, nor did he refuse. He just beat around the bush. Regarding big matters like earning spirit stones, he felt that he had to ask Supremacy Lone Moon first, before he could be at ease. It was clearly a sect competition, but no one was paying attention to the competition. This gave Honesty Sect, who had prepared for a long time, an advantage. Quite a number of disciples achieved good results. Especially the Foundation Establishment disciples. Lu Tao had made it all the way to the finals. Since Lone Moon said that he would not interfere, he really did not interfere. He stayed at the Invincible Peak for a few days, until the last day of the competition, when all the sects were fighting for the top spot. He then took Shening and I Ching out for a walk. After all, they were the only 2 soul formation supremacies in the sect. It was indeed inappropriate for them not to show up for such a big event. Once the 3 of them arrived, the sect leaders who had arrived earlier on the backstage all stood up. Perhaps because they had already heard that the sword formation was set up by Lone Moon, they were especially warm to him. Lone Moon was especially familiar with such occasions. Just walking to the grandstand, he had cheated countless people. Then he smiled and sat on the right side. Next to him was Dong Wu of Divine Heavens Sect. The 2 of them chatted about something, but seeing Father Nyo's sly smile, Shening silently lit a candle for him. Not long after they sat down, the competition had already started. Lone Moon had to stop talking. Looking at the arena, the Chi Refinement Group's competition was in front. It was a man and a woman fighting against each other. They were disciples of Red and Green Sect and Mystic Essence Sect. They looked young, especially the female cultivator. Her bone age looked to be less than 16 years old. Lone Moon frowned. Somehow, she looked familiar, but he could not remember where he had seen her before. The Chi Refinement Group's competition ended very quickly. The female cultivator from Red and Green Sect used an explosive elixir to blow her opponent off the stage and won. Perhaps it was a coincidence, but the sect leader of Red and Green Sect was sitting not far from them. The moment the female cultivator got off the stage, she walked towards I Ching happily. Before she reached the Green Pill Sect's position, her eyes suddenly lit up, and she looked straight in I Ching's direction. Her eyes seemed to be blooming with flowers. Her young face was filled with excitement and a trace of lingering affection. Lone Moon's heart lit up. He suddenly remembered who this woman was. Wasn't she the little girl who came out of the mystic realm with I Ching? He heard from the disciples that she was his childhood sweetheart, and I Ching even saved her in the mystic realm. So from the looks of this girl, she was his childhood sweetheart, and he had saved her life. Was she going to repay him with her body? Lone Moon felt excited for no reason. He nudged Shining beside him and said gloatingly, "Hey, Shining, do you see that girl?" He pointed to the girl on the right and said meaningfully, "Looks like you have a love rival." Ah. Shen Ying's hand that was nibbling on her fruit slipped. She looked stunned. "Hurry up and tell me, what do you think?" Shen Ying tilted her head and looked in the direction he was pointing. Then, she turned back to look at Chef, who looked normal. What? What? Lone Moon rolled his eyes. "I didn't expect Chef to be so charming. That girl obviously likes Chef." "Is that so?" Shen Ying was stunned. She looked at the two of them again, as if trying to figure out the truth of his words. She did not look jealous at all. Chef, on the other hand, was stunned. He stepped forward and looked at the two of them who were whispering to each other. "Master? What's wrong? Why are you whispering to each other without me?" He subconsciously turned to look in the direction she was looking at. He saw a girl dressed in pink. She looked familiar. That girl's eyes lit up even more. Her face turned even redder. She looked even more excited. She clenched her fists by her side. As if she could not help it, she walked over excitedly. "Look, she's coming. She's here to snatch people." Lone Moon looked like he was watching a good show. The girl got closer and closer. The more she walked, the more anxious she became. Towards the end, she was even jogging. Her smile was especially bright. She seemed to be flying over impatiently, heading straight in I Ching's direction. Then she pushed I Ching away and hugged Shining, who was behind him. "Shining. Lone Moon. I Ching." Chapter 330. Big sister, it's really you, isn't it? She was so emotional that she looked like she was about to cry. She hugged Shining tightly, and even rubbed her chest. "I knew I would be able to see you again." "What the hell?" Lily, I Ching, who was suddenly pushed away and almost fell to the ground, frowned and went forward to separate the two. "Don't be rude to Master." Lily was stunned, as if she just noticed I Ching. "Big brother next door, why are you here?" I Ching pulled his master back with a look of dissatisfaction. "I am Master's disciple, of course I'm here. Why are you hugging? What if you hurt yourself?" "Master?" She looked at I Ching and then at Shining, with a look of disbelief. She seemed to have figured something out, and her face fell. "You actually became the disciple of the little sister who saved me." She looked at I Ching inexplicably with some hostility. She turned to Shining with tears in her eyes. "Big sister, do you still remember me? I am Nyo Nyo, the Nyo Nyo that you saved back then. You are the reason why I am cultivating immortality." Shining tilted her head, looking confused. "I am the granddaughter of I Ching's next-door neighbor, Granny Wang." Lily did not give up and continued. "Back then, we were almost eaten by the tiger demon. You saved him and me together. I miss you so much, I miss you so much." "Oh," Shining nodded. "Who was Granny Wang?" Lily looked excited. "I fainted back then, so I didn't have time to talk to Big Sister. Now I finally see you again. I have always wanted to ask you." She could not help but hold her hand again and said sincerely, "Big sister, do you still lack disciples?" I Ching, Lone Moon, the sect master of Red and Green sect who had just followed. Hey, do you want to join another sect in front of your own master?" "There's no need." I Ching's face darkened. He could not help but pull her hand away again, and even wiped it on Shen Ying's hand. He said word by word, "My master has no plans to accept any more disciples. Big brother next door, you are too stingy. Let me be your junior sister. I will definitely be very obedient." "No need." She was resolute. "Humph. It's not like you're the one accepting the disciple. What right do you have to say no? No means no. Look at you, you're just a selfish bully. I still want to acknowledge you as my master." "How dare you?" Sword chi filled the air. "Humph. Are you and I afraid of you? Give it a try." He drew his sword. Lone Moon was speechless as he watched the two of them about to start fighting. They looked at each other as if they were thieves. It was supposed to be Shen Ying's love rival, but it turned out to be Chef. The world changed too quickly, and he couldn't react in time. On the other hand, the sect leader of the Red and Green faction could not take it anymore. He coughed and said coldly, "Lily." "What?" Lily was furious. She turned around and glared. only to find that the one standing behind her was her master. Instantly, her momentum weakened. "Master, you've just won the competition. Why are you messing around again?" The other party looked at her disapprovingly with a hint of reproach. Lily looked aggrieved. After thinking for a while, she said excitedly, "Master, I found the big sister who saved me back then. Look, it's her." "I heard it." The sect leader of the red and green faction's mouth twitched. He heard it, and knew that she wanted to join another sect. But due to etiquette, he could only bow. "Two supremacies." Lone Moon hurriedly returned the bow. The sect leader of the red and green faction then turned to look at Lily. "All right, just thank her. This is the sect competition. You can't mess around like this. Follow me back." With that said, without waiting for her reply, he dragged her back awkwardly. Yet Lily did not give up. As she was being dragged, she did not forget to look at Shunning affectionately. "Big sister, when the competition is over, I'll come and find you. You have to wait for me. You have to wait for me. My name is Lily. Lily as in lilies." Seeing that Shunning nodded, she was dragged away by her master reluctantly. Chef's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He suddenly had the urge to bring his master back and seal up the invincible peak. He turned to look at his master worriedly, but the other party did not seem to notice and was still calmly nibbling on the fruit. I Ching's eyes darkened. Seeing that she was going to continue grabbing fruits, he frowned and snatched it over. "Master, you shouldn't eat too many of these spirit fruits. Let's eat pastries." With that said, he kept the fruit on the coffee table beside her and replaced it with a plate of pastries. "Oh." Shunning grabbed nothing and turned to look at the pastries. She pinched a piece unhappily and put it into her mouth after a while. The fruit was obviously more delicious. She subconsciously muttered, "You didn't care about it in the past." I Ching's hand suddenly trembled, and he clenched it tightly in his palm. In the past, Sister Lily's sudden appearance made Lone Moon lose patience to watch the competition. As for Shunning and I Ching, they were not watching at all. They only vaguely heard that Lu Hong's son seemed to have gotten second place in the Foundation Establishment group, which was considered a good result. When the Golden Core stage ended, he saw that the winner was actually Jing Qi. Speaking of which, he had not seen this invader for several years. The last time was when he entered the Mystic Realm 3 years ago. He did not expect him to form his core so quickly, and compared to that gloomy time, he looked much better now, as if he could finally hold his head up high, and his whole person was brimming with confidence. But for some reason, the luck in the virtual shadow surrounding him had decreased a lot. He also did not know what happened in the Mystic Realm last time. It was said that he was also a dual cultivator of sword and pill. His sword moves were fast and quick, and he defeated his opponent cleanly, causing an uproar among the sections. Even the Divine Heavens sect master, who was not on good terms with Wuxia, praised him. The judge was just about to announce that he was the winner of the Golden Core stage and end today's competition. Wait, but he stopped him. Instead, he suddenly took a few steps forward and cupped his fists at the various sect masters on the spectator stand. He said loudly, "In this competition, there are even more powerful Golden Core cultivators who did not participate. This disciple naturally does not dare to take the title of champion." As he spoke, he suddenly turned to look at I Ching. A trace of resentment flashed across his eyes, but it immediately darkened again. He continued, "I heard that fellow Taoist I Ching of Honesty Sect has excellent swordsmanship. When he was in the Golden Core stage, he broke through the sect's nascent soul stage sword array. Unfortunately, I do not know why he did not participate in the competition today. So I would like to fight with fellow Taoist I Ching." As soon as he finished speaking, the various sect masters all turned to look in I Ching's direction. There was more or less a look of anticipation in their eyes. Originally, they came for the sword array in this competition, but they heard that Honesty Sect had sealed the sword array in advance, so they could not find out more about it. Suddenly, a provocation came out, and the other party was someone who had broken through 10 levels of the sword array. Wasn't it exactly what they wanted? How could it not make him excited? Chapter 331. Divine Heavens Sect Master Dong Wu's face darkened. Others might not know the effect of the sword array, but he was very clear about it. The few cultivators in the sect who were about to break through to soul formation were proof. He wished that other sects didn't know what it was, so that they wouldn't have to steal their spots. He didn't expect a fool to appear in his own sect. Jingqi, shut up, don't be rude. He wanted to stop him from continuing. Sure enough, the disciple taught by junior brother Wuxia was also a troublemaker. Sect master. Jingqi had no intention of withdrawing. He still stared at I Ching and said, his cultivation is the same as mine. If I don't compete with him, I really don't dare to bear the title of Golden Core. Dongwu was furious, but he couldn't go down and pull him back. Instead, I Ching, who had a cold face from beginning to end, took a step forward. Just when everyone thought he would accept this challenge, I Ching suddenly said, whether you bear the title of Golden Core or not, what does it have to do with me? Jingqi. Dongwu. Everyone. What he said made so much sense that they couldn't refute him. You. Jingqi's face turned red with anger. He suddenly felt like he was being humiliated in public. Are you looking down on me? I Ching was stunned. He replied, why should I look up to you? Who are you? I don't even know you. Jingqi instantly spat out a mouthful of blood. He wanted to spit it on Loman's face. Even the onlookers were a little sympathetic for him. This answer was so reasonable that it made people want to vomit blood. Seeing that Jingqi looked like he was about to faint from anger, Shening, who had already eaten half a plate of pastries, narrowed her eyes. Huh. She suddenly turned her head and said, Chef, go and try. I Ching was stunned and then nodded. Yes, master. With that said, his figure flashed, and he was already on the competition stage. With a turn of his hand, a snow-white spirit sword appeared in his hand. Jingqi's eyes darkened. He took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in his heart. He laughed coldly. He finally came down. From the looks of it, he should have formed his core as well. But it didn't matter. Today he must take revenge for what happened before. The two did not say anything more, and directly fought together. For a moment, the whole place was filled with sword lights. The two of them moved so fast that only their afterimages could be seen from time to time. Everyone released their divine sense one after another. Only then did they see the two's movements clearly. Both of their sword techniques were astonishing. Their sword moves were ever-changing. He did not know if it was an illusion, but he felt that their moves were somewhat similar. However, I Ching's sword moves seemed to be more exquisite. In the beginning, Jingqi was still able to fight evenly with him. However, as the fight went on, Jingqi became more and more exhausted. There were even a few times when he was unable to dodge his opponent's moves, and was directly swept by the sword light. If not for the Dharma robes he was wearing, the competition would have been over. The more Jingqi fought, the more shocked he became. He did not expect I Ching's sword technique to be so powerful. Even though he had received the inheritance from the essence-converting ball, he still could not defeat him. Was this the sword technique that his master had taught him? The more he thought about it, the more hatred he felt. If it wasn't for him, he would have had the chance to learn such an exquisite sword technique. How could she be accepted as a disciple by that ungrateful old man Wuxia? He was indeed his nemesis. If he didn't get rid of him now, he would be an even bigger obstacle to his cultivation in the future. Hardening his heart, he gritted his teeth and dodged his opponent's attack. Seeing that thousands of sword chi were about to hit him, he changed his hand seal. He calmed his heart and pulled out a trace of his consciousness to connect with the essence returning pearl in his arms. In an instant, an endless stream of energy flowed out from the pearl. The spirit chi in his body surged and instantly bounced back the attacking sword chi. It even forced I Ching to take 2 steps back. A suppressive force that was even stronger than that of a soul formation cultivator attacked I Ching. Thousands of spirit swords appeared and attacked I Ching. Every sword seemed to be alive. Wind, fire, thunder, and lightning even appeared on the swords. I Ching dodged but did not have time to dodge. In an instant, his body was cut by many wounds. Especially that special suppressive force. It made it even more difficult for him to move. He could not even move a step. 5 elemental lightning fire array. As there was an isolation array around the spectator stand, the crowd did not feel that suppressive force. But they recognized that array. Their eyes were filled with surprise. That was an array that even nascent soul cultivators might not be able to master. Jingqi could actually summon it and control it so freely. This kind of talent could be considered one of a kind in the three azure realms. I Ching could only surround himself with sword qi to block the omnipresent spirit swords. But the suppressive force was even more severe. He felt suffocated, and a sweet taste of blood welled up in his mouth. He knelt down on one knee. He did not expect the other party to have this kind of strength. But this array, a trace of doubt flashed across his mind. Suddenly, he heard an ear-piercing sound behind him. Reflexively, he turned around to block it. With a crisp clang, a faint trace of gray gas flashed past his eyes. This is demonic qi? I Ching was shocked. Before he could think clearly, he suddenly heard Jingqi's voice. I did not expect you to be able to dodge it. But you won't be able to hold on for much longer. In the next moment, more and more of that strange aura attacked him from all directions. It carried with it a murderous aura that could not be ignored. I Ching's face darkened. He forced himself to stand up under that shocking pressure. Relying on his perception of the aura, he began to block the invisible but omnipresent aura. You're still stubbornly holding on. Jingqi's voice became colder and colder. There was even some anger in it. Let's see how long you can hold on. With that said, the person who was originally still holding on to the array suddenly took up his sword and walked in his direction. His face was full of the pride of a victor. I Ching, from the first time I saw you, I knew that you were my biggest obstacle. You think so too, right? What? Obstacles must be eliminated. No one will know that I killed you. They will only think it was an accident. His sword was placed directly on his neck. Only when you are dead can my path to immortality be smooth. So who exactly was this person? After today, I will be the strongest golden core sword cultivator in the three azure realms. In the future, I will naturally become the strongest sword immortal. Sword immortal? As for that master of yours who is proficient in swordsmanship, I will take over for you. He suddenly smiled. Master! I Ching's eyes suddenly turned cold. A faint cold aura emanated from his body. What did you say? I think she will be happy to accept an outstanding disciple like me. The more he spoke, the more pleased he became. His attacks became more and more concentrated. As long as you are dead. Shut up. Before he finished speaking, I Ching, who had not yet had the strength to resist, suddenly exploded with a huge amount of sword qi. It surged out like a tsunami. It directly repelled the surrounding spirit swords and that special aura, as well as Jingqi directly. Chapter 332. What? Before Jingqi could even react, his entire body smashed into the ground with a bang. The surrounding array formation instantly disappeared, and even the elemental transformation pearl in his bosom made a cracking sound as a crack appeared. How is this possible? His face was filled with disbelief, but he only felt a pain in his chest as he spat out a mouthful of blood. On the other hand, I Ching's huge sword qi shook the ground so much that it cracked inch by inch. The isolation array at the side was also directly broken. However, the sword qi around his body was still soaring. The surroundings were filled with the sound of sword light. The white sword qi surrounded him and slowly took shape. In less than a moment, it had formed a huge white dragon. The huge dragon that was like an illusion let out a dragon roar. In an instant, not only Jingqi, but everyone on the stand heard a buzz in their ears, and they all took a breath. This is sword intent. They had never seen such a strong sword intent, like a real dragon. Everyone was shocked. Was the other party really just a golden core cultivator? I Ching just looked straight at Jingqi, who was spitting out blood. His eyes seemed to be burning with a fire that could destroy everything. He said word by word. Stay away from my master, little b******. As soon as he finished speaking, the huge dragon formed by the sword qi behind him opened its mouth and rushed towards the other party. Jingqi's eyes bulged, and the fear of death hit him. He remembered all the sword techniques and spells and screamed, "Help! Help me! Holy shit, I Ching!" Lone Moon was shocked. Why did he suddenly get angry? If this sword intent kept smashing down, the invader would not even be left with ashes, not to mention alive. He could not die now. Anxious, he flew directly to the center of the field. He was just about to stop it, but someone beat him to it. Chef. Shenning suddenly appeared by his side and called out. The person who was still in a rage just now trembled. And even the huge sword chi dragon that was rushing over stopped abruptly, stopping less than a finger's distance from Jingqi. The realistic dragon whiskers swept across the other party's face, drawing 2 bloody lines. As if frightened, his eyes rolled back and he fainted. Master! I Ching turned his head. Instantly, the violence in his eyes disappeared. He turned and hugged her. Master, don't. Ignore the other little bitches, okay? In the next moment, the sword chi around his body dissipated, along with the giant dragon, instantly dissipating. His body swayed, as if he had used up all his energy, and his whole body was on top of Shenning. Chef! Chef! He's about to form his nascent soul. Lone Moon glanced at the spirit chi around Chef and frowned. That was why he was against Chef participating in the competition. Bring him back to Invincible Peak. He helped Chef up with one hand, and Shenning with the other. He looked up at Lu Hong and said, Sect Master, I'll leave the rest to you. With that, he flew towards Invincible Peak on his sword. Lu Hong still hadn't recovered from the shocking sword chi just now. He only nodded his head after the others left. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Did Supremacy Lone Moon just say, nascent soul formation? I Ching. Therefore, the sword chi just now was his epiphany. A nascent soul cultivator less than 20 years old. All the sects present thought of this, and for a moment, the whole place was silent. No one remembered the fainted Jingqi. Once Lone Moon returned to Invincible Peak, and put I Ching on a flat ground, he hurriedly set up several lightning-attracting arrays. Golden core cultivators were still fine, but nascent soul cultivators were different. If he didn't make some noise, no one would believe that he was forming his nascent soul. Father Nyo, what are you doing? Shenning looked at Father Nyo, who was running around in circles, looking confused. Of course I'm setting up lightning-attracting arrays. Lone Moon rolled his eyes at her. Even a blind man could see that his sword chi just now didn't belong to a golden core cultivator. Therefore, we can only let him form his nascent soul as soon as possible. He knew the tricks of the immortal cultivation world the best. If I Ching had always been a golden core cultivator, that kind of sword chi would inevitably cause people to guess where it came from. They would definitely find out more. They weren't afraid of it, but they would definitely implicate Honesty Sect. They were here to take the blame anyway, and they couldn't let others take the blame. Oh, Shenning nodded, took a bite of fruit and said, Does it have to be red lightning? Red? Lone Moon was stunned. What red lightning? How could there be red lightning tribulation? Like that? She pointed to the sky. Lone Moon was stunned. He looked up and saw that the sky was suddenly filled with huge thunderclouds, and red flashes of light flashed between the clouds from time to time. Holy shit! He was shocked. Why is there a lightning tribulation? Are you saying that with his cultivation, he just needs to go through the process? I don't know. Shenning tilted her head. Maybe it's different this time. Different. Lone Moon was stunned. Speaking of which, the sword intent that Chef released just now was indeed different from before. In the past, his sword intent was a huge golden sword, which was cultivated by Shenning after she tricked him into saying that he could defeat 10 with his strength. But what appeared just now was in the shape of a huge dragon, which looked quite like Chef's true form of the dragon race. Could it be that this was the reason why he attracted the lightning tribulation? But no matter what, there shouldn't be a red lightning tribulation. It wasn't like he had never formed a nascent soul before, and he had experienced many lightning tribulations, but he had never seen anything like this. Red lightning could only be. His face paled, and his eyes widened. He looked in Chef's direction in disbelief. Red lightning tribulation. He had only seen it in the demon realm. Why would Chef attract demonic lightning? His heart sank. He took a closer look at Chef's body. Indeed, he could see a faint trace of demonic chi. Chef didn't look right either. In the past, when he advanced, he would wake up after a nap. But now, he looked like he was in extreme pain. His forehead was covered in sweat, and his eyes were tightly shut. It was as if he was fighting with something. This was a mental demon tribulation. Holy shit, Chef actually attracted a mental demon tribulation. His eyes widened in disbelief. How could he have a mental demon? Among the three of them, the one with the purest mind was Chef. He was the kind that had a clear path to the end. By right, anyone could have a mental demon except Yi Qing. Why did he get a mental demon when he came back to do a simple instance again? What's going on? Do you know what his mental demon is? Shen Ying's eyes narrowed, as if thinking of something. After a while she said, "Let's wait and see." The first lightning tribulation had already struck down, directly hitting Chef's body. He was originally in extreme pain, but now he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. His expression became even uglier. As the lightning tribulation fell one after another, his expression became more and more painful. His skin and flesh were already torn, and his breathing was already very weak. Chapter 333. No, if this goes on, Chef won't be able to get through the mental demon tribulation. They had only struck 50-odd lightning bolts. There were still 30 more to go. Oh, Shen Ying's expression darkened. Then let's pause for a while. With that said, she suddenly raised her hand and snapped her fingers in the air. In an instant, as if someone had pressed the pause button, the white lightning that struck down stopped right above Chef's head. It was as if a bright red lamp post had lit up in the sky, spanning between the heavens and the earth. Really? Teletubbies? Lone Moon? This is freaking possible. Shen Ying walked directly towards the person who was going through the tribulation. She glanced at his charred body and his pained expression. Sighing, she squatted beside him and reached out to poke the person in front of her. Chef. Yi Qing's expression became even uglier. After a while he slowly opened his eyes. Instantly, a pair of red eyes stared straight at her. His entire being seemed to be trapped in the mental demon. And for the first time, the way he looked at her actually had some hostility. Master. His eyes widened, and there was a hint of questioning in his voice. Who exactly am I? Who exactly do you think I am? Shen Ying paused. A strange look flashed across her eyes. Chef Dash. I'm not your chef. He suddenly roared, as if all the emotions that he had been suppressing for a long time exploded. I'm not Chef. I'm not Yi Qing. I don't know your past. Master. Master, why do you always treat me as someone else? Be it you or Lone Moon. What exactly do you think of me? I really want to try my best to do everything well. I really try my best. Can you look at me? Don't look at others through me, all right? Master, you took me in as your disciple. Is it because I am me? Or because I am him? Am I just a shadow of him that you miss? But what if I'm not him? If you're mistaken. But you are. I'm not. He roared even louder, the emotions in his eyes becoming more and more crazed. I'm not. I don't want to be someone else's substitute. I don't want you to look at him through me. I just want you to look at me, only me. Master is my. Before he could finish speaking, Shen Ying suddenly slapped him on the top of his head, causing him to lower his head. He seemed to be unable to react for a moment. He looked up in confusion, and even the crazed expression on his face seemed to be stuck. Why are you so spoiled? She must have been led astray by Father Niu. Mas. I say, is there a hole in your brain? What are you thinking about? Shen Ying scratched her head in frustration. What substitute? There has always been only one chef. Be it you in the past or now. The only thing that separates them is you, right? Do you have nothing better to do? Am I playing schizophrenia with myself? Why don't you cook more when you have time? I've never thought about who was better, the past you or the present you. If you want to compete, you should compete with others. Why do you keep tormenting yourself? Also, you can't remember the past, and you're blaming me? But if I wasn't him? You weren't? Shen Ying's eyes narrowed, her expression unhappy. Are you doubting Father Niu's vision or me? He faltered and hurriedly shook his head. No, I've never doubted, Master. All right. Shen Ying suddenly reached out and touched his head, rubbing it into a bird's nest. So are you done being spoiled? Yi Qing was stunned. His eyes were still a little blank, but the red in his eyes faded little by little. The evil aura around him also disappeared without a trace, and he returned to his usual self, as if he had finally thought things through. Hurry up and finish it, I haven't had lunch. Shenning added. His eyes slowly regained their firmness, and his expression instantly improved. He cupped his fists and replied in a clear voice. Yes, master. Oh yes, cook a few more meat dishes. Yes, master, no problem, master. Only then did Shenning stand up, turn and walk out of the range of the lightning tribulation. In the next moment, the rumbling thunder sounded again, and the lightning struck down directly on I Ching. But the lightning gradually faded from the original dark red, first to light red, and then instantly returned to white light. His mental demons are gone. Lone Moon looked at the sky, and turned to look at Shenning, who was walking back. What did you talk to him about just now? Even his mental demons are gone. His bluffing skills had improved. You didn't listen? Shenning tilted her head. Why are you looking at me like that? Am I that kind of person? Yes. Motherf asterisk cur. The lightning tribulation in the sky became denser and denser, illuminating the surroundings with a bright white light. But it was only the lightning tribulation of nascent soul, after all. Apart from the mental demon tribulation, the rest were nothing compared to the heavenly tribulations in the immortal world. Lone Moon was completely relieved. The two didn't wait long in the same place, and the lightning tribulation was over. But the last lightning tribulation seemed to be especially powerful, and even the flash was several times more than the previous dozens. When that lightning came down, even the defensive array that Lone Moon had set up shook and almost collapsed. Chef in the middle, however, didn't seem to feel anything. Apart from the injuries caused by the mental demons, there were no more injuries on his body. In the next moment, the tribulation clouds in the sky dispersed, and the surroundings began to light up. At the same time, large amounts of spirit chi swarmed over, instantly filling the whole honesty sect. Especially in Chef's direction, the spirit chi was so thick that it was almost turning into a substance. Even the wounds on his body were recovering rapidly, visible to the naked eye. He walked directly towards the two. Lone Moon didn't know if it was an illusion, but they felt that his gaze was more stable than before. He looked straight in Shen Ying's direction, and something flashed in his eyes. He said firmly, Master, I'm back. Shen Ying was stunned for a moment, and her eyes narrowed. Oh, I'm hungry. Yes, Master. Chef didn't say anything else, but turned and plunged into the kitchen at the side, without stopping at all. He even forgot to restrain the overflowing sword chi beside him. Speaking of which, wasn't the sword chi on his body a bit too thick? Wait. Lone Moon subconsciously looked at his cultivation. Holy shit. How did you form a soul formation? Lone Moon chased him all the way to the kitchen, and looked closely at his body. He really had soul formation cultivation. Wasn't he still forming his nascent soul when the lightning struck? How did he jump a level in the blink of an eye? I Ching looked at the ingredients in his storage bag with a relaxed expression. There's too much spirit chi. Damn, you're rising a bit too fast like this. There shouldn't be any problems, right? Is your body alright? He shook his head as he cut the vegetables. I'm fine. No, you're rising too fast. If there's really a problem, we'll send you down here for nothing. The more Lone Moon thought about it, the more worried he got. Your body has just recovered. What if there's a problem? Oh, I Ching answered casually, and pointed to his side. Father Neo, give me that plate. Lone Moon handed it over. I'll still look at it carefully for you later. It's best if Shen Ying can also help you look at the data or something. I'll go find Shen Ying. With that said, he turned and walked out of the kitchen. He had just walked 2 steps when his body suddenly stiffened, as if he thought of something. His eyes widened abruptly, and he turned back somewhat mechanically. What did you just call me? For all. Chapter 334. I Ching directly turned around and stuffed 2 plates of freshly cooked food into his hands. Father Neo, bring these to Master first, it's already an hour late. You. Lone Moon subconsciously took the 2 plates, his eyes widening even more in shock. After a while he shouted, You remember? Holy shit. No wonder he suddenly became a soul formation. So he recovered? Yes. I Ching nodded. Then why didn't you say it just now? I thought you saw through it. Even Master saw through it. Son of a b*****. See through your head. Do you have to be the same as Master and disciple? Are you worthy of your father's broken heart? Perhaps because of the last lightning strike, I Ching regained his memory. His cultivation naturally rose back to the divine race. But because of the limitations of his body, he did not return to his previous level. The reason why he was now a soul formation was probably because this was the lower realm, and he had not completely accepted the assistant seal. So he would be restricted by the laws of the lower realm. His cultivation would be suppressed to soul formation. Lone Moon felt that this was considered good news. It seemed like it would not be long before they could return to the immortal world. Just that. What the hell is this? Before Lone Moon could put down the 2 dishes, he saw a shadow appear beside Lazy Ying. It was emitting yin qi all over its body. It really was a ghost. Where did it come from? It came from someone else's body, Shenning said casually. What body? Lone Moon stopped halfway. As if thinking of something, his expression changed. The soul of the original owner trapped in the invader's body. Shenning took the dishes from his hands, picked up her chopsticks and started eating. So hungry. Lone Moon glanced at the terrified ghost shadow. On closer look, it indeed looked exactly the same as Jing Qi's current body. But it was extremely weak, transparent like a wisp of smoke that would dissipate with a blow. Why is he here? He looked confused. Wasn't he suppressed by Jing Qi, trapped in the body and unable to come out? As Shenning ate, she took the time to reply, Chef's sword aura. Lone Moon paused, thinking of the competition just now. You mean Chef's sword qi directly shook him out? That can't be right. How could the sword qi be repelled? The invaders were only able to suppress it because of their luck. Wait, when they brought Chef back just now, that Jing Qi's luck seemed to be almost gone. Was it because of this, in addition to Chef's sword qi, that the other party lost the suppression of the original soul, and this soul was squeezed out? Don't tell me you knew this would happen. That's why you let Chef fight with them? Before he fought with Chef, he still had a lot of luck on him. After he fought with Chef, there wasn't much left. Even the primitive soul that was suppressed was squeezed out. Shenning did not answer. Instead, while she was drinking water, she instructed, Father Neo, after we're done eating, go and get Chef's childhood friend. What? Lone Moon glanced at her. Isn't that your new fangirl? She's a lesbian. You really want to develop her into a lesbian? He gave her an expression that said, How can you face Chef? Master, let me go. She did not know when I Ching had walked out of the kitchen and placed the dishes on the table in front of Shen Ying one by one. Then his figure flashed and disappeared. In less than a moment, he appeared in front of them with an excited girl. Big sister. Lily's eyes lit up. She jumped and was about to pounce on Shen Ying. Chef's eyes were sharp and his hands were quick. He pulled her back again. Lily immediately glared at I Ching, behind her like a fireball. I'll leave this person to you. Shen Ying suddenly spoke. She pointed at the confused ghost beside her, who was starting to lose consciousness. Who? Lily was also shocked. It was as if she just noticed the ghost beside her. Ghost. Ghost. Big sister is so scary. Her little face paled. She turned and wanted to pounce on Shen Ying again. But she was pulled back by the same person. I Ching used his height to grab her collar and throw her out. Little bitch. If I really let you near Master, I'm not called Chef. Carrot. Shen Ying, what are you doing? Lone Moon looked confused too. Why are you handing him to a little girl? What if he was caught by the invaders again? Shen Ying tilted her head. Aren't souls managed by Mengpa? Souls are managed by Mengpa, but with her. He stopped mid-sentence. Something suddenly connected in his mind. He turned and glared at the girl beside him. You're Mengpa. Lily stared blankly. What Meng? Just as she was about to ask, the look in her eyes suddenly changed. Her original innocent expression slowly turned into a look of understanding. Even the aura around her instantly changed, as if some seal had suddenly been unlocked. A moment later, he smiled regretfully at the few of them. Sect Master is indeed a manager. Even you managed to recognize it. Her figure changed. and she slowly turned from a lily back into a shorty. She said with a little disappointment, "I've clearly sealed my memories." Lone Moon. It's true. Holy shit 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 shit. You already knew. Lone Moon stared at Shenning in disbelief. Then he thought of something and looked at Chef. You knew too. That's right. Both of them nodded. Wasn't it obvious at a glance? Right my ass. He was going crazy. Why did you tell me? Did he still have teammates to love? Would it kill him to squeak? The two of them exchanged a look and said in unison, I thought you knew. What the hell do I know? It would be weird if he knew. Seeing that the person opposite was about to go berserk, Shenning suddenly looked up and said, Father Niao, have you never unlocked the assistant authority? What assistant? He faltered. Suddenly, something flashed in front of his eyes. In the next moment, everything in front of him seemed to be different, especially Lily beside him. A few words suddenly appeared above her head, turbid remnant consciousness. All the information about her appeared in his mind. It was as if he suddenly opened a character introduction. Even the soul beside him had the word Jingqi, but the information about him was only up to the age of 10. There was nothing after that. Shit. So the manager assistant had this kind of external function. Next time you have any assistant skills, can you King let me know in advance? He glared at Shenning. He was an assistant, not a nanny. Don't mind such details. Get lost. You're King lazy. Definitely. Wait. He suddenly thought of a problem. He turned to Chef. Shenning was a manager. It was not strange that she recognized Mengpa. How did you recognize her? He was not a real assistant yet. I Ching looked at him and answered seriously. Because no one can see master at first sight. Lone Moon. Mengpa. Shenning. Son of AB *TCH. She felt like she was stabbed somewhere. Chapter 335. I Ching took a step forward with a natural expression. He raised his hand and pushed the soul that was about to become a wandering spirit towards Mengpa. I'll leave this person to you. Oh. Mengpa recovered and conjured a seal. The soul flashed and turned into a beam of light that flew into Mengpo's hand. After keeping the soul, she looked at Shenning with sparkling eyes. Sect Master, don't worry. I will personally send him into Samsara. Shenning nodded. Go. Sect Master. Mengpa looked at her, her eyes heavy, as if she wanted to say something. Can't I stay a little longer? Before Shenning could answer, I Ching took a step forward and said confidently, I didn't prepare your meal. Who said anything about staying food? Mengpa was full of grievances. Seeing that Shenning had no intention of keeping her, she could only turn and walk away. The invader's trapped soul is out. Now we just have to chase him back to the plane, right? Lone Moon looked at Shenning, his expression saying, If you dare say one more thing that you think he knows, I'll deduct your food expenses. Shenning nodded. Then I'll go catch that Chinibyu. While the people from Divine Heaven's sect had not left, Lone Moon stood up. As long as he chased the invader out of the plane, this matter would be resolved. He was just about to turn when suddenly a bell rang from the horizon. The bell rang louder and louder, spreading throughout the 3 azure realms in an instant. It rang 10 times. What was this? Did you hear that? He turned to look at the two. I Ching nodded, also looking confused. What was that? Before he could think, Lu Hong had already flown up hurriedly, his face pale and panicked. His steps were even more disorderly. He looked at Lone Moon anxiously and said, Supremacy, did you hear that? The bell, it's 10 bells. The bell of the Mirage Sea is ringing. What's going on? Lone Moon looked confused. What 10 bells? Speak clearly. What do you mean by 10 bells? It's the Mirage Sea Beast Tide Supremacy. His face was anxious. Even his body was trembling. The bell rang 10 times just now. I think the seal on the Mirage Sea has already been broken. All the sects have already set off to stop it. Lone Moon turned around and saw a large group of people flying out of the sect, heading towards the north. The beast tide has already invaded the 3 azure world. If we don't stop it in time, the entire 3 azure world will cease to exist. I'm sure all the elite disciples of the various sects have already rushed over. Lu Hong said anxiously. I want to ask Venerable One if all of our sect members should set off to the Mirage Sea to stop the beast tide. Beast tide? Since when did such a powerful beast tide appear in the three azure realms that required all the sects to work together to defend against it? Call up all the disciples who have already reached Foundation establishment and set out together. The rest of you stay in the sect, Lone Moon instructed in a low voice. If it really was a beast tide, Chi refinement disciples would also be cannon fodder. All right. Lu Hong nodded and turned to gather the disciples. Let's go, Chef Shening, Lone Moon called out. Oh. Lone Moon had just taken a step when he turned back and pulled a certain foodie up by force, shoving her to his personal driver, Chef, before flying towards the main hall of the main peak. Lu Hong's speed was very fast. It was also possible that everyone had heard the bell. When they arrived, all the disciples of the sect above the Foundation establishment stage were already in front of the main hall square. Seeing that they had passed, Lu Hong did not say much and shouted for them to set off. With a wave of his hand, he led everyone towards the north. Along the way, Lone Moon asked about the situation of the beast tide. It turned out that every 100 years in the three azure realms, a beast tide would be triggered above the Mirage Sea in the far north. The beasts in the Mirage Sea would take the opportunity to go ashore and attack the people of the three azure realms. Moreover, there were many beasts from the Mirage Sea. Every time, tens of thousands of beasts would attack, and most of them were around the 7th level, and some were even above the 10th level. In the past, there was an ancient array left behind at the border of the Mirage Sea. This array formed a barrier and directly blocked the beasts outside. In the past, all the sects gathered at the Mirage Sea, saying that it was to repel the beast tide. But in reality, it was just to exterminate some of the escaped beasts that rushed into the barrier. In the past few hundred years, the power of the ancient array has become weaker and weaker. Often, there would be a beast tide attack before the 100-year period ends. The number of beasts that rushed in also increased. Lu Hong sighed as he flew. This time the bell suddenly rang. It seems that the ancient array could not hold on any longer, and the beast tide rushed in. I don't know if the three azure realms can survive this. His face was full of worry. Even the disciples behind him had the same expression. But no one retreated. They rushed towards the north desperately, as if they knew that there was no other way. Lone Moon frowned. He had an impression of the Mirage Sea. He remembered that the E family of the 4 big families guarded the border of the Mirage Sea. At that time, Baizé guarded the E family to prevent those beasts from climbing ashore. And the black dragon in the divine world, when it was still a green dragon, led the beast tide to fight against Baizé once. Afterwards, Shening forced it to acknowledge the E family as its master, and it guarded the Mirage Sea for many years. After that, the black dragon ascended to become a dragon. Who would have thought that after so many years, the beasts in the Mirage Sea had become so rampant? Lone Moon vaguely felt that something was wrong, but he could not pinpoint it. We're here. Lu Hong suddenly stopped. Indeed, they could already see the disciples of various sects fighting with the beasts below. They were all in groups of 3 to 5, fighting 1 or 2 beasts. They all looked to be at the 4th or 5th level. Foundation establishment disciples, go down and help. Golden Core disciples, follow me and continue forward. Lu Hong gave a very familiar command and continued flying forward. The further they flew, the more beasts there were on the ground, and the more cultivators there were. There were also cultivators who rushed over at the last minute. There were figures of cultivators fighting with the beasts everywhere. Some were dressed in the uniforms of various sects. Some were probably itinerant cultivators. And what was more surprising was that there was a person with a faint evil aura around him. That is a fiendish cultivator? Lone Moon was shocked, and somewhat did not dare to believe his eyes. That is a disciple of the Hidden Fiend sect. Lu Hong took a moment to look at that Golden Core fiendish cultivator, and while commanding the Golden Core disciples to stop here to deal with the obviously many times more beasts than before, he answered with a natural expression. Fiendish cultivators will also come to deal with the beast tide? Lone Moon subconsciously blurted out. Aren't you afraid that he has a guilty conscience and has other supremacy, Lone Moon? Lu Hong suddenly opened his mouth, and for the first time, retorted with disapproval and disbelief. You can't say that. Ha! Fiendish cultivators, and our immortal sex only have different cultivation methods. We are all the same cultivators. Naturally there is no difference between us, he said with a serious expression. Moreover, now that we are facing a great enemy, we should be united. Was the relationship between immortal sex and fiendish cultivators so harmonious now? Supremacy, please do not say such things. They are all good and proper fiendish cultivators. Chapter 336. Lone Moon frowned. The world was changing so fast. Fiendish cultivators were already trustworthy companions. Somehow he thought of roasted chicken gal. Sigh. Indeed, there was nothing that time couldn't change. It's my fault. He apologized hurriedly. Looking at the beasts that were getting denser and denser, he said to the two nascent soul cultivators who were left in the sky, "You two stay here to stop the beast tide. We'll go ahead and take a look." All right. Lu Hong nodded. He also understood that if they continued forward, those beasts wouldn't be something they could handle. He turned to look at Yi Qing, who had just ascended to nascent soul. Then he's with us. Lone Moon said, "Don't worry. He can definitely handle it." Lu Hong was stunned, but he did not ask further. He cupped his fists and said with a resolute expression, "Please take care of yourselves, supremacies." With that said, he looked at the two of them again, and then flew down towards the herd of beasts below. Lone Moon and the other two then continued flying forward. But the further they flew, the more shocked they were by the scene in front of them. There were dense beasts everywhere in front of them. The number was like a tide that kept coming. They could only see a black mass. He had never seen so many demon beasts before. How can there be so many demon beasts? And their cultivation levels weren't low. He could already faintly hear the sound of fighting in front of him. He scanned with his divine perception and found that they were all soul formation cultivators. There were dozens of them in total. They blocked the front and focused on attacking the high-level demon beasts to avoid hurting the disciples behind them. It seemed that this beast tide had indeed invaded many times. All the sects didn't even need to discuss to know where they should fight. Lone Moon turned his hand, and the flute instantly turned into a spirit sword. He gave Sheneng and Chef a look, and directly flew towards the dozen soul formation cultivators in front of them. Those people looked quite familiar. They were the disciples who went to Honesty Sect to participate in the competition. They should have rushed over the moment they heard the bell. Lone Moon instantly turned into a rain of swords, attacking the few 12th level demon beasts in front of them. He was originally an emperor. Even if he suppressed his cultivation, the demon beasts of the lower realm naturally couldn't stop the spirit swords that he turned into. The swords pierced through their bodies, and the demon beasts immediately fell to the ground. Supremacy Lone Moon. Dong Wu, who was about to battle ahead, was delighted. "You're here." Lone Moon nodded in greeting and rushed over with Chef. In an instant, the few of them who were still having a hard time felt much more relaxed. The demon beasts also fell in droves, and sharp sword chi was everywhere. All the soul formation cultivators were stunned. They could only sigh. Sword cultivators were indeed different. One of them was more than a few of them. But why did the cultivator with the frightening sword chi besides Supremacy Lone Moon look a little like the one who fought with Divine Heaven's sect for the top position of Golden Core? They didn't have time to think about it before they threw themselves back into the battle. With the addition of these two people, they managed to push back the oncoming beast horde by a certain distance, pushing them back. However, there were simply too many beasts. When the beasts retreated to the seaside, they did not retreat anymore. Instead, more and more beasts emerged from the sea. There was no end to it. The more Lone Moon fought, the stranger he felt. This scene was not right. Normally, it had always been difficult for beasts to advance, and they weren't like the demon race, who had developed intelligence first. So their numbers had always been small, and they rarely moved in groups. Yet the three Azure realms would welcome a beast tide every 100 years. How could this not be right? He observed the surroundings, but found that there were 4 very prominent pillars standing by the seaside. 2 of them were already broken, and there were faint strange patterns drawn on them. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but the beast seemed to be avoiding those pillars intentionally or unintentionally. What's that? He asked Dongwu beside him. It's the foundation of the ancient array that blocked the beast tide in the past. Dongwu sighed and replied, unfortunately, it has been broken by the beast tide now. What array is it? Perhaps that array could be repaired. I don't know. Dongwu shook his head and split a demon beast with a sword. This array has long been lost. In the last million years, I've never heard of anyone who is proficient in this array. Longmun's eyes darkened. I'll go take a look. With that said, he turned to look at the person behind him and called out, Chef. In the next moment, the sword in I Ching's hand changed. All the sword chi in his body condensed into sword intent, turning into a long sword chi dragon that swept in front of Lone Moon. There was only a dragon's roar, and instantly a path to the array pillar was swept out. Lone Moon flew over directly and took a closer look at the talisman engraved on the pillar, but found that he didn't understand it at all. What's this? He was just about to open up the authority to see if there was an automatic explanation or something. But I Ching suddenly said, it's the dragon trapping array. What? This is the dragon trapping array of the dragon race. I Ching said with certainty. There's such an array in the inheritance of the dragon race. So it was the array of the divine race. Wait. This array, could it be left behind after that long worm turned into a dragon? Can you set up this array? Lone Moon asked anxiously. Yes. I Ching turned to look at the densely packed sea of beasts that kept surging ashore. This array cannot be interrupted in the middle of setting up now. That's easy. Lone Moon's eyes lit up. As long as it could be repaired. Just set up the array. With that said, he flashed back in front of the people behind, looked up at the right, and said, Hey Shening, hurry down and help Chef clear the area. Ha! Shening, who was sitting on the tree and swinging her legs, tilted her head, looking lazy. The soul formation cultivators at the side got a fright. Huh? Not to mention that there was actually a whole tree here that hadn't been attacked by the beast horde. Who was that person on the tree? When did she come? Why didn't they see her at all? And they subconsciously narrowed their eyes at the fruit cores that were already strewn all over the ground under the tree. How long exactly did this person eat fruits on the tree? Stop being so long-winded, hurry down. Only then did Shunning shake her legs, jump down from the tree, and walk over slowly. So troublesome. She didn't want to move until she was full. Troublesome my ass, hurry up. Lone Moon hurriedly went forward and dragged her over, while at the same time stuffed the sword in his hand in her hand. Alright, hurry up. I know you're not full. You can have an extra meal for dinner, right? With that said, he conveniently pushed her towards the densely packed beast horde. Supremacy Lone Moon you. All the soul formation cultivators were shocked. That girl didn't look like she had any cultivation. Wasn't he sending her to her death? A few people just wanted to go forward to stop her, but it was already too late. They watched as huge demon beasts climbed up from the sea, opened their mouths and bit towards her. Dongwu even exclaimed out loud, Miss Little. Before she finished speaking, she heard the other party sigh, suddenly raised the hand that was holding the sword, and as if playing, waved it in front of her. In an instant, the side of the sword turned into a white line, with an aura that seemed to be able to destroy heaven and earth. With a swoosh, it swept towards the sea. In the blink of an eye, the originally densely packed beast horde on the sea surface were all cut in half. Even the huge waves that were raised by the demon beasts on the sea surface also mixed with the beast water and fell down, instantly dyeing the sea surface red. There was a complete silence. Dongwu. Everyone. Where were they? What just happened? Supremacy Lone Moon. The group of soul formation cultivators finally reacted and walked over quickly, their faces filled with excitement. I wonder how this Supremacy is proficient in this illusory sea ancient array? Lone Moon paused and then remembered about I Ching. Before they set off, I Ching suppressed his cultivation to nascent soul, so Lu Hong did not realize that he was already a soul formation cultivator. However, he had just repelled the horde of beasts and set up the formation. Naturally, he could not hide his soul formation cultivation. That's I Ching from the previous competition. Actually, he was originally a soul formation cultivator. It's just that he was seriously injured a few years ago. His meridians were damaged, so his cultivation did not recover. Now that his injuries have healed, he naturally returned to his original cultivation. He deliberately lied about the history of the other party being raised, since he was not a member of Honesty sect anyway. Only then did everyone's faces change. On the other side, I Ching directly walked past them and towards Shening. Looking at the person on the ground, he frowned. "Master, the ground is too cold, you can't sit for long." With that said, he took out a small round table and 4 chairs. He pulled the person to the chair and carefully placed the unfinished dishes on the ground one by one onto the table. He even added a few more dishes. "Lone Moon, everyone, are you guys here for a picnic?" "Cough that." Lone Moon coughed, the corner of his mouth twitching. He tried his best to ignore the master and disciple, and turned to remind them. Although the array formation has been set up again, there are still some demonic beasts that have barged in. Let's go back and help. Only then did everyone realize. Yes, there are still demonic beasts. I Ching, and I will wait for Shening to finish eating, and come over to help. Everyone subconsciously trembled. Suddenly, they thought of the sword that destroyed the entire group of beasts. Their hearts went numb, and they all smiled and nodded. Yes, of course. So they all mounted their swords and flew back to help. As they flew, they couldn't help but turn back to look at Shening, who was still having a picnic, and I Ching, who was busy handing out dishes. Not to mention I Ching, who knew the ancient array. Who was that woman? She clearly didn't look like an ordinary person with no spirit chi. Why did she have such terrifying strength? That sword seemed to be able to split open the sky. Oh yes, what was that woman's name again? This time, Lone Moon waited until Shening had finished her meal and burped loudly before he spoke. You guys can see that there's something wrong with this beast tide, right? I Ching frowned and poured another cup of tea for Shening. He nodded and said, Indeed, ordinary demonic beasts won't attack people easily unless they are disturbed. And so many of them. Yes, the numbers are strange, Lone Moon said in a low voice. Although the aquatic demonic beasts reproduce faster than ordinary demonic beasts. But that beast tide just now, so many demonic beasts, it's simply unimaginable. No matter how big this Mirage Sea is, it's impossible to raise so many demonic beasts without hundreds of thousands of years. But Lu Hong said that such a beast tide happens once every 100 years. And it seemed to have indirectly promoted the friendly relations between fiendish cultivators and immortal sections. That's right. I Ching nodded and looked at Shening. Master, this beast tide is indeed abnormal. And among the beasts earlier, there were many demonic beasts above the 10th level. By right, demonic beasts above the 10th level can transform and develop spiritual intelligence. But without exception, they all maintain their beast forms and attacked based on instinct, unless they don't have spiritual intelligence at all. Lone Moon finished. That's right. I Ching nodded. Demonic beasts that already had spiritual intelligence, no matter how low it was, would always be able to avoid danger. But that group of demonic beasts, even though they knew that it was a soul formation cultivator who came to stop them, did not have any intention of retreating at all. Anyway, they swarmed over like bees. Even after he and I Ching attacked, those demonic beasts did not seem to realize the danger at all. They did not show any signs of fear. Shening, what do you think? Lone Moon turned to look at Shening. I don't know. Shening shook her head. Perhaps the Mirage Sea had a birth control policy. Speaking of which, along the way, did anyone see that Shinibu? Lone Moon. I Ching. Chapter 338. Only then did the two remember the invader called Jingqi. Thinking about it carefully, they did not see him along the way. Especially among the Golden Core disciples who were fighting against the demon beasts along the way. There were disciples from various sects who went to participate in the competition. But there was no sign of him. Divine Heaven's sect would not let him stay alone. Lone Moon's heart sank, and without hesitation, he directly made a tracing spell. He had left it on him a long time ago, just to make it easier to find him. But strangely, his tracing spell did not respond. How could this be? His expression changed. Where did he go? It should be. Shenning suddenly turned and pointed in the direction of the Mirage Sea. Over there. Mirage Sea. Lone Moon and I Ching exchanged a look, and their hearts sank. Could it be that this beast tide is related to him? Previously, they were worried about the outbreak of Chef Sword Chi, and did not care about what happened to that Chinibyu after the competition. Unexpectedly, after only one day, he caused such a big thing. With his ability, it is impossible to cause such a big beast tide. I Ching shook his head and said, there should be other reasons. Let's go and see, Shenning suggested. Only then did the two rise up on their swords and flew towards the depths of the Mirage Sea. Large pieces of half-beast corpses floated on the surface of the sea. Shen Ying's sword strike might have been too fierce. The three of them flew for a long time before they finally did not see those corpses. But below them appeared a large number of demon beasts. And the number was even more than before, rushing in the direction they came from in groups. Even as if they could not see the floating corpses in the sea at all. They just rushed over blindly, as if controlled by something. This was too strange. I'll go catch one and see, Lone Moon said and flew down. He raised his hand and set up a trapping array, which turned into a net of spirit chi, and caught an 8th-level demon beast and lifted it up. The few of them stopped on a small island at the side, and then threw this demon beast on the ground. The demon beast seemed to have gone mad, desperately hitting the trapping array around it. Even when it was covered in blood, it did not stop, and its eyes were emitting a strange red light. Lone Moon frowned and struck out with a sword art. The demon fell to the ground instantly. He directly used a wind blade to cut open the belly of this rank 8 beast, and carefully scanned it. He even used his divine sense to explore. Suddenly his eyes widened. This demonic beast actually doesn't have a beast core. How is this possible? Normally, if a demonic beast wanted to cultivate, it would definitely form a beast core in its body. Otherwise, it would be impossible for it to gather spiritual energy. This was clearly an 8th-rank demonic beast, so it was impossible for it to not have a beast core. Father Neo, why don't we try summoning the soul? I Ching suggested. Lone Moon paused. He immediately used a soul summoning spell. A beam of light shot out from his finger and swept towards the other party. A moment later, a wisp of light smoke floated up from the beast's corpse and dissipated in a short while. It didn't even condense into a shape. This is a remnant soul, Lone Moon exclaimed. I Ching's eyes were filled with shock as well. There was absolutely no problem with Lone Moon's sorcery, which meant that the light smoke just now was the soul of this demonic beast. There was actually only a remnant soul in the body of an 8th-level demonic beast. No, it probably couldn't even be called a remnant soul. No wonder these demonic beasts only rushed towards the shore blindly. They probably didn't have any consciousness at all. They probably didn't even have souls in their bodies. Where did their souls go? Who took them away? Logically speaking, if someone had used soul summoning, it was impossible that they didn't find out. Even Mingpa didn't notice it. Perhaps there wasn't any in the beginning. Shen Ying's eyes darkened. No. Lone Moon paused. But this demonic beast was clearly alive. Why wasn't there any in the beginning? Over there. Shenning tilted her head and suddenly pointed to the right side of the sea. There's something interesting. What? Something that doesn't belong to this world. Could there be another intruder? Lone Moon and I Ching exchanged a look, and their expressions changed. Let's go and take a look. Once again, they mounted their swords and flew in the direction that Shenning had pointed out. The closer they got, the more demonic beasts there were. The sea was filled with all kinds of demonic beasts, and their levels were getting higher and higher. Some of them even had the cultivation of earth immortals, but they still maintained the appearance of not taking human form, and crazily headed in the direction that they came from. They were almost at the edge of the Mirage Sea. After flying for another 10 minutes, they could faintly see a black island. Looking at the scene on the island, the few of them couldn't help but gasp. There were even more demonic beasts on the island. There were layers and layers of them, and they were crawling towards the sea outside. Compared to the demonic beasts in the sea, these demonic beasts seemed even crazier. But their bodies were all blood red. Many of the scales on their bodies were still wrinkled, as if they had just been born and hadn't fully grown. But once they crawled into the water, they became adult demonic beasts again. It was as if every step they crawled took hundreds of years of growth. The slower they crawled, the higher the level of the demonic beasts when they entered the water. What island is this? Lone Moon suddenly had a bad feeling. He had never seen such a scene before. There's something in the middle of the island, Shining reminded. Lone Moon and I Ching were stunned. The next moment, they directly flew towards the center of the island. From afar, the few of them saw a silver light. They saw that in the middle of the island, there was a pool of 2 to 3 meters wide. The water in the pool was very strange. It was silvery white, like a pool of mercury. And those endless demonic beasts crawled out of the pool. At first they were very small, but when they reached the shore, they grew with the wind. What is this thing? I Ching was stunned. He released his divine perception to feel carefully, only to find that there was actually no fluctuation of spirit chi in the pool. Apart from the different color, it was just like ordinary pool water. But it could produce so many demonic beasts. This was practically a miracle. Lone Moon sensed the assistant imprint, wanting to see the situation of this pool clearly. After a while his eyes suddenly widened. This pool doesn't belong to this plane. He saw that the word invader suddenly appeared on the pool. How can this be? Lone Moon was stunned. Why is there no alarm this time when this plane is invaded? There was obviously a second grader from before. Maybe it's been here for too long. Shining said. You're saying that this thing was here before you became a manager? Yes. Lone Moon frowned. It was indeed possible. This was not the first time this beast tide had happened. Even when they were still in the lower realm, this mirage sea was not very safe. It was only because Baizé was guarding that it did not form a beast tide. In other words, it was very likely that this pool was already here at that time. No matter what, we cannot let this pool continue like this. I Ching directly summoned his spirit sword and said. Yes. Lone Moon nodded. If this goes on, this beast tide will not end. Chapter 339. The two of them flew over. Instantly, the sky was filled with a rain of swords. Lone Moon summoned a sword array and cleared out an empty space around the pool. Only then did the few of them go down. Lone Moon's sword moves were not clear. Those demon beasts that had just climbed out of the pool were immediately cut into pieces. I'm going to destroy that pool. I Ching flew up to the top of the pool and activated his sword intent. In an instant, it turned into a huge dragon and flew straight down into the pool. Just as it was about to enter the pool, the surface of the water suddenly emitted a white light. It directly sucked the entire dragon formed from sword chi into it. The pool was completely undamaged. There was not even a ripple. I Ching was stunned. Before he could react, the next moment, a dragon's roar sounded. The sword dragon that he had just released suddenly rushed out of the pool and headed straight in his direction. This was I Ching was shocked. He hurriedly dodged. The sword dragon rushed up into the sky. This pool could actually reflect his sword chi. Be careful. Before he could think carefully, Lone Moon suddenly shouted at him. Only then did he realize that several arrays had suddenly appeared in the air. The array was very strange. He had never seen such an array before. Especially the characters on it. They did not look like the characters of any world. There was clearly no fluctuation of spiritual power, but the array shone brightly. Almost in an instant, several sword dragons that he had just summoned rushed out of more than 10 arrays and rushed towards him. There were really too many sword dragons. Moreover, they were his own sword chi. Naturally, their power was shocking. For a moment, even he himself could not withstand it. Lone Moon directly rushed forward. The two of them stood on the left and right. As they activated the defensive array, they attacked to block the sword dragons. I didn't think that you actually dodged it. Suddenly, a familiar cold voice came from ahead. They saw the space above the pool distort. As if some kind of disguise had been removed, a man's figure suddenly appeared in front of them. Chinebutha Pui Jingqi. Lone Moon immediately recognized the person in front of him. He was indeed here. His thoughts turned, and he immediately understood. This beast tide was caused by you. That's right. He snorted coldly and stared straight in I Ching's direction. His eyes were full of hatred. I only slightly activated the demonic power of this spring of life. I just didn't think that you would not be killed by the beast tide, and still be able to find this place. What do you want? I Ching frowned. If not for Master, the cultivators of the three azure realms would not be able to stop the beast tide at all. The beast tide would definitely sweep through the entire three azure realms. Regardless of whether they were cultivators or mortals, they would all perish in the jaws of the beasts, including his fellow disciples. What are you doing? Naturally, it's to take revenge on you. Jingqi looked at him even more fiercely. If you hadn't crippled my cultivation during the grand competition and broken my spirit root, I wouldn't have become a cripple after all these years of cultivation were destroyed in a single day. You've caused me to end up like this, so of course I'll destroy everything you have to vent the hatred in my heart. I crippled your cultivation? I Ching's face was blank. When? Lone Moon narrowed his eyes and took a closer look at Jingqi. Jingqi indeed did not have any cultivation on him. Also, he did not know if it was an illusion, but in less than 2 days, he felt that Jingqi seemed to have put on a lot of weight. His figure was almost the same as the shadow around him. The most important thing was that there was not even a trace of that thick fate left on his body. But it doesn't matter now. Jingqi's eyes flashed with a trace of excitement. He looked at I Ching, as if he was looking at a dead man. If not for you, how would I have found this place and obtained such strong demonic power? The more he spoke, the brighter his eyes became. He raised his hand and drew in the air a few times. Suddenly, an array appeared in front of him facing them. Today is the day you pay. As soon as he finished speaking, a ray of light shot out from the array and rushed towards the two people opposite. Lone Moon and I Ching immediately rode on their swords and dodged. In the next moment, they heard a loud rumble. They saw that the ground that the ray of light swept across seemed to have been cut by something. The small island was instantly cut in half. What the hell was this sorcery? The two of them were shocked. In the next moment, several such arrays appeared in the sky, appearing in different positions. In an instant, the sky was filled with rays of light. They swept towards the two of them like lasers. They could only dodge, but they were still accidentally swept by the rays. Even the Dharma robes they were wearing seemed to be unable to block these strange rays of light. Lone Moon's sleeve was accidentally cut in half. Destroy those arrays! I Ching shouted. Lone Moon nodded. As he turned to avoid the rays of light, he held his sword and rushed towards the arrays, slashing at them with all his might. They heard a cracking sound. Although the light in the array was powerful, the array was unexpectedly very fragile. It directly turned into light and disappeared. The two of them, one on the left and one on the right, in less than a moment, they cleared those arrays. You actually broke my holy light array. But Jingqi did not seem to care at all. His eyes became even colder. Forget it, it was originally used to buy time. With a turn of his hand, a wooden stick embedded with jewels suddenly appeared in his hand. They did not know what he said, but a huge array suddenly appeared in the sky. That array was very big, almost covering the entire sky above the small island. The red light of the array turned the surroundings blood red. Lightning flashed and thunder roared around the array, and strong winds rose. What are you trying to do? Lone Moon's heart sank. As long as I summon it, all of you will die here. He suddenly laughed maniacally, his face filled with the joy of revenge. He raised the wooden stick in his hand even higher. Come out, giant dragon. What? Dragon? Lone Moon was shocked. He could actually summon the dragon race from the divine realm. Before he could think about it, the lightning in the sky became even crazier. The array protruded, as if something was about to break out of it. In the next moment, a scorching aura descended from the sky. A huge figure broke out of the array. First, it was a huge head, then a huge body as tall as a mountain. The key thing was that it had a pair of huge wings on its back. It opened its mouth and let out a deafening roar. I Ching. Lone Moon. This is a dragon? Dragon my ass. What kind of dragon is this little monster with wings that can only spit fire? Don't just casually use a Western setting to make up the numbers. This guy must have transmigrated from a Western fantasy world, right? It was definitely true. Giant dark beasts that can destroy the world, tear them apart and burn this world to ashes. Yet a certain person who felt that he had done something big shouted at the giant beast excitedly. King retard. Chapter 340. Indeed, in the next moment, the huge dragon with a big belly spread its wings, stirring up a gust of wind, and rushed towards the two of them. Lone Moon was unperturbed, and even doubted the teaching standards of Divine Heaven's sect. Did no one ever tell this Chinibyu about the level of monsters in this world? Chef. Lone Moon patted the shoulder of the person beside him. Let him see what a real dragon is. The corner of Chef's mouth twitched. He kept the sword in his hand, and flew towards the dragon above his head. His whole body flashed with white light, and the next moment, there was golden light all around. A huge golden dragon appeared in the air, and flew up. A dragon roar sounded, and in an instant, tens of thousands of lightning bolts appeared. The lightning in the sky was like rain, crashing down on the little monster, and the air was filled with the strong smell of barbecued meat. Chef turned in the air, and his tail whipped towards the roasted western little monster in the air. The roaring little monster instantly fell to the ground like a rubber ball, the kind that couldn't be dug out even if he wanted to. Chef's figure flashed, and he turned back into human form. He looked at the little monster in the pit, and then silently took out a kitchen knife. Master seems to have never eaten this kind of meat. Save a little, save a little. How is this possible? The dragon that was summoned suddenly was killed in an instant. Jing Qi's face was full of disbelief. That was a huge dragon that could destroy the world, and no one in that world could defeat it. How was this possible? And what I Ching looked like just now? Who are you people? Us. Lone Moon laughed coldly. Before you invaded this world, didn't you first find out who is in charge here? How did you know? His eyes widened, and a panicked expression finally appeared on his face, as if the biggest secret in his heart was exposed. No matter where you come from, this world does not welcome illegal immigrants. Go back to where you came from. His expression changed and he shook his head hard. No, I can't go back. It's not up to you. Lone Moon didn't want to waste time with him, and directly flew over, planning to catch him first. Just as he was about to catch him, he pounced on empty air, and went through his body. Holy shit! What was going on? He was stunned for a moment, and then he struck out with the sword art. However, he found that the sword art directly passed through the other party's body, as if the other party did not have a physical body. Jing Qi was also stunned for a moment. Looking at his own body, he suddenly thought of something and began to laugh wildly. Ha ha ha! I have the holy light of the spring of life protecting my body. This is the power of God. Unless it's someone approved by God, filthy people like you can't even touch me. I am immortal. Is that so? Just as he finished speaking, a lazy voice suddenly sounded. He didn't know when Shining had squatted by the side of the pool. She rested her chin on one hand and looked up at him. Jing Qi was startled. He didn't even have time to think about when this person came. Shining suddenly grabbed a demon beast that had just climbed out of the pool and threw it at him. He only felt a gust of wind, and before he could react, his vision went black. With a bang, a demonic beast smashed into his face. He was directly smashed down from the air and fell to the side of the pool with a thud. Hit. Shining then slowly added, "The approval of you God is really cheap. The kind that even small animals would recognize. You. Jing Qi's face was full of disbelief. He struggled to climb out from under the demonic beast. Looking at the pool in front of him, something flashed across his mind. Suddenly, he stood up and rushed in that direction. Lone Moon's expression darkened. He shouted, "Shining, don't let him enter the water." This pool was obviously something from his plane. It could allow Jing Qi to obtain some power that they didn't understand. Seeing that Jing Qi was about to jump in, Shining suddenly threw a blue cube into the pool. Almost instantly, the water in the pool surged towards the cube. In the blink of an eye, the silvery white color of the pool disappeared, leaving only a hole in the ground. There was also a certain teenager who couldn't hold on and fell into the hole with a splat. The cube absorbed the last drop of water before flying back to Shining. It was still the size of a palm, but it had already changed from sky blue to silvery white. One could faintly see the light of water in it. Lone Moon landed on the ground and set up a trapping array in the middle of the puddle, trapping everyone inside. Then he turned to look at the silver transparent three-dimensional box in Shen Ying's hand. "What's this?" Lone Moon asked. Chef, who had finished cutting the meat, also returned. He looked at the box carefully. "This looks a little like a mystic realm. It's an isolated space." Shen Ying replied and threw it to Father Niu. Lone Moon caught it and looked at it carefully. Only then did he realize that this box was indeed similar to a mystic realm. Inside was a space that didn't belong to this world at all. It was just that it was of a higher level. And it was sealed. Not a bit of aura leaked out. Where did this come from? I just made it. So she didn't attack for a long time just now, because she wanted to make this. Lone Moon turned to look at the pit in front. Without the pool water, there wasn't a single demonic beast crawling out of the pit. Yet Jing Qi still had a look of hatred on his face. He stared at the few of them. "What do we do with this guy?" Lone Moon pointed at the person in the pit. "Open the plane now and throw him back?" Before Shen Ying could answer, the person in the pit started shouting. "Do you think you've won me just like that?" He suddenly looked up at the few of them and laughed coldly. He took out a bottle out of nowhere and directly poured it down. "Shit! It's the spring water just now." Lone Moon cursed. He didn't expect this guy to have already kept a bottle. "Ha ha 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 ha." Jing Qi laughed wildly. "One drop of the spring of life can make people immortal. So what if you take the spring water? You can't beat me at all." The more he laughed, the more arrogant he became. The aura around his body changed. A strange aura that they had never seen before exploded from his body. In an instant, it broke through the trapping array that Lone Moon had set and swept towards the few of them. The few of them subconsciously took a step back. But Jing Qi suddenly flew up from the bottom of the pit. He went higher and higher. That strange aura also became thicker and thicker. His whole body emitted a silver-white light. "Ha ha ha. It doesn't matter how high your cultivation is. With the spring of life, you can't kill me at all." Before he finished speaking, the white light around him suddenly dimmed. He fell from the sky again. Even that thick aura just now disappeared as if it had never appeared. "What's going on? Why is it like this?" His expression changed. A huge wave of panic swept over him. The spring of life can obviously make people immortal. Why is it like this? His expression became uglier and uglier. He thought of something and turned to glare at the three people opposite him. "It's you. What did you do?" Chapter 341. The three of them stared blankly. What was going on? Had the water expired? Jing Qi's expression grew crazier as he glared at them with bloodshot eyes. "What did you do to the water?" Halfway through his sentence, a look of pain flashed across his face, and he subconsciously pressed his stomach. In the next moment, his slightly plump tummy swelled up at a speed visible to the naked eye, like a balloon being blown up. In less than 3 breaths' time, he had already swelled up so much that he leaned backwards, as if he was about to lose his balance. How could this be? What is this? Jing Qi held his waist with one hand and leaned against a tree trunk, his face full of fear. His stomach grew bigger and bigger, and they could faintly see something wriggling under it. The three of them heard a ding sound, as if something was connected. Realization dawned on them instantly. Lone Moon's face was full of surprise. The spring of life is really the real deal, honest to all. I Ching also nodded his head in understanding. Good quality and cheap price. Immediately see the results. Jing Qi's face was full of panic and fear. He looked like he was about to break down. He shouted, "What did you say? What happened to me?" The three of them exchanged a look. Shen Ying stepped forward and patted his shoulder. "Warrior, congratulations, you're pregnant. Didn't they say it was the spring of life? Of course it was used to give birth to life. There was nothing wrong with it." Jing Qi's face paled instantly. In the next moment, as if he could not bear the blow, his eyes rolled back and he fainted. Shenning poked the person on the ground with a branch. So happy you fainted? The corner of Lomun's mouth twitched. He obviously fainted from shock. What do we do now? Send him directly back to the other plane? Or just destroy him? Probably not. I Ching shook his head. Although the original soul has already come out, there is still one in his stomach. What if there was a new soul in his stomach? Whose side would it belong to then? Then what do we do? Lomun frowned. Did they still have to help him deliver the baby? Bring him back to Invincible Sect first. Shenning suggested. Go back to the immortal realm now. Lomun was shocked. But chef. Before he could finish, he turned to look at I Ching, only to find that the aura around I Ching was no longer spirit chi, but god power. F***CK, when did you recover? It was obvious that he had already recovered. It was too fast. Just now. I Ching gave him a puzzled look. Didn't he ask him to transform into a dragon just now? Where's the assistant seal? Just as he finished speaking, a light flashed between I Ching's eyebrows. In the next moment, a familiar infinity symbol floated out. The black words that Shenning had written around the symbol were getting tighter and tighter. Just like the last time, the symbol seemed to be crushed and disappeared along with the words. The divine power surrounding him suddenly disappeared. Mother****. Damn cheat. Let's go home. Shenning turned back and shouted. She opened the interface and walked in first. I Ching was about to follow when Lomun pulled him back. Come back. What is it? Nonsense. Of course it's to carry people. You want me to carry this pregnant woman? No, pregnant husband alone. What if the child was hurt? Lomun pointed to the person on the ground. You lift your head, I lift my feet. Oh. Thus, the two of them lifted the person on the ground and walked towards the realm gate, huffing and puffing. The realm gate that Shenning opened was directly in the back hall of the Invincible Heavenly Palace, the courtyard that she used to live in. Lomun and I Ching casually threw a certain pregnant husband who had not woken up to the ground at the side. Due to the time difference, the three of them had not returned to Invincible Sect for more than 3,000 years. Lomun looked around and found that there was still no change here. It was still the same as when they left. There was not even a speck of dust on the table that Shenning usually used to eat on. It seemed that someone cleaned it often. Lomun directly made a seal and set up several layers of array formations around Jingqi. Chef had already gone into the kitchen to cook skillfully. Shenning, on the other hand, was still lying on the table out of habit, looking lazy and spineless. When Lomun finished setting up the array formations, Chef had already cooked 2 dishes, but the surroundings were still quiet. He did not feel it earlier, but now he felt that the surroundings were too quiet. It had been so long, not to mention someone coming in. There was no other aura nearby. Lomun frowned and stood up. I'll go look for Yu Hong and Boss Lan. After saying that, he flew out on his sword, but he found that not only the back hall, there was not a single disciple in the nearby few heavenly palaces. His heart sank. He directly released his divine perception to scan the entire heavenly palace, but found that the entire invincible heavenly palace was like an empty city. There was not a single person in sight. How could this be? He remembered that when they left, Lan Hua had already become a god fiend. With his protection, nothing should have happened. Besides, even if something happened, it was impossible that there was not a single person. There were no signs of a battle in the heavenly palace. Where did everyone go? He frowned and suddenly thought of something. He turned and flew towards the immortal vegetable field at the back. Indeed, from afar, he felt a familiar immortal chi, and there were faint fluctuations of sorcery. He saw that in the middle of the vegetable field, there was an array formation lit up. It seemed to be a binding array formation. In the middle of the array formation, a familiar-looking big radish was trying its best to climb out, but was pushed back again and again by the array formation. Perhaps it had used too much energy. The originally green leaves on its head were now yellow, drooping listlessly, as if they were falling off. Radish! Lomun was shocked. It had already grown so big. With a wave of his hand, he dispelled the array formation and flew down. The struggling figure below stiffened. It turned around slowly, and the whole radish was stunned. What's wrong? What happened to you? Lone Moon went forward and asked. What exactly happened? Wah. Before he could finish his sentence, Radish had already rushed over and wailed loudly. Water was flowing out of his body, and he was almost crying like a water radish. Annoying Elder Gui, you're finally back. Wah. Lone Moon. To hell with annoying Elder Gui. The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. Seeing that his clothes were about to be drenched by the radish, he hurriedly pulled a certain vegetable off his body. Don't cry. What happened? We just came back. Why is there no one in the heavenly palace? You guys. The radish raised its head violently. The water on its body stopped instantly, and even the radish leaves on its head stood up. Little Missy is back. Yes, let's go together. Little Missy. Before he finished speaking, the radish had already turned around and jumped out. Dong dong dong, it went in the direction of the rear hall. It was clearly 10 times bigger than before, but when it jumped, it was like a shadow. Lone Moon almost could not catch up. Chapter 342. Radish skipped all the way to the back hall before stopping. Looking at the familiar figure sitting in front of the table, Radish trembled slightly, as if it couldn't believe it. Little, big sister. Shining, who was eating, turned her head and waved her chopsticks. Hey, big, Radish. Little sister. Little, big sister. Radish rushed over quickly, but stopped in front of Shining. It sniffed, and in the next moment, its whole body was like a flood splashing water. Wah! Little Missy, you're back. You're finally back. Radish. Radish is so scared, wah! The more it cried, the sadder it became, as if it couldn't control itself. It cried until the whole radish seemed to have dried up, like a big child who had been wronged, and was complaining to its parents. Shining exchanged a look with Chef beside her, sighed, and then put down the bowl in her hand. She brushed away the leaves on Radish's head that were almost dried up. What happened? Little sister. Little sister. Radish seemed to have a chest ache from crying, hiccuping as it said anxiously, Quick, save, everyone. Little Hong has been taken away. The three of them were stunned. Lone Moon, who had just caught up, stepped forward and said, You're talking about Yu Hong? What happened? Who took her away? Where did the others go? Tell me clearly. It's the Demon King. Radish said anxiously. He took my big sister Little Hong, brother. Brother Lon went to chase but didn't come back, so Little Yu and the others went too. They also said it was too dangerous, and didn't want Radish to go with them. You mean Little Black took Yu Hong? Lone Moon was shocked. He hadn't seen Radish for a few thousand years, and he had become bolder. He even dared to come to Invincible Sect to capture people. No, it's the Demon King. Radish shook its head vigorously, and became even more anxious. It tugged at Shenying's sleeve. Little sister, quickly go and save them. They've already been gone for a night, and they haven't come back yet. Shenying, let's go quickly. Lone Moon was anxious, and he turned to summon his flying sword. Chef even cast a spell, intending to keep the unfinished dishes on the table. Wait. Shenying suddenly spoke. What are you waiting for? Lone Moon became even more anxious. They're back. Lone Moon paused and turned to look. Suddenly, a large amount of demonic chi surged out from all directions and gathered into a ball. The space in front of him distorted, and in the next moment, a hole the size of a person was torn open in the air. The next moment, 7 or 8 figures fell out from it. All of them were covered in blood and cut a sorry figure, especially the person at the very front. He was almost covered in blood, and half of a broken sword was still stuck in his chest. Lan Hua. Lone Moon was shocked. Seeing that Lan Hua was about to fall, he quickly reached out to support him. Sister Xiao Hong. Radish was also shocked. Its figure flashed and instantly turned into a human. It turned around and hugged the figure behind Lan Hua, who was also covered in blood. Lone Moon. Lan Hua's eyes widened as he stared at the person in front of him in disbelief. His originally gloomy eyes lit up. You're here, so kind heart. He hurriedly turned to look behind him. Everyone else also turned to look at Shenying. For a moment, 7 or 8 pairs of eyes were fixed on her. Hey. Shening waved a hand in greeting. In the next moment, everyone present seemed to be frozen in time as they stared at the person in front of them. Their eyes were wide open, and the despair in their eyes seemed to have been lit up in an instant. Their eyes seemed to be filled with tears. A while later, disciples of Invincible Sect greet Sect Master. And Lan Hua and the others were seriously injured. Apart from Yu Hong, who was slightly better off, the others either had their meridians broken or their immortal bones injured. Lone Moon and I Ching spent a lot of effort to barely manage to treat their injuries. What exactly happened? Lone Moon asked. Before Lan Hua could reply, Yu Hong, who was beside him, stepped forward and knelt down. Her face was full of self-blame. It's your disciple's fault. I'm the one who harmed everyone. Elder, please punish me. No. This has nothing to do with Sister Xiao Hong. Radish panicked and went forward to pull her up, but Yu Hong refused to get up. How can you be blamed for this? Lan Hua also tried to persuade her. Why is Yu Hong involved? The more Lone Moon listened, the more confused he became. Your injuries were really caused by Little Black? It's not Little Black, it's the new Demon King. Lan Hua shook his head. Little Black is missing. What? The Demon King had a new Demon King. Lone Moon was stunned. Lan Hua then explained the situation. We only found out about the change of the Demon King in the demon world recently. A few years ago, Little Black suddenly came over and gave a low-level Dharma artifact to Yu Hong. Not long after, the Demon King captured Yu Hong and forced her to hand over the Dharma artifact. I chased after her only to find that the Demon King had changed and was also trapped. The other disciples broke into the demon world and tried their best to get the few of us out. What Dharma artifact? Lone Moon frowned. Why did Little Black give it to Yu Hong? If it was such an important thing, it should have been given to Lan Hua. Why did he give it to Yu Hong? Lan Hua was stunned. He glanced at Yu Hong, who suddenly lowered her head. He coughed and said, That's their love token. Huh? Love token? The moment he said that, even Shening, who was still eating, was stunned. Little Black and Yu Hong? What was going on? The two of them were actually together. It looked like they had missed out on more than just a little in these 3,000 years. The disciples in the sect often can't find a sparring partner. Lan Hua scratched his head and explained. Little Black often comes to visit, and he's a demon. Cough, he can take a beating. Yu Hong is eldest senior sister, so she asked him to be her sparring partner so they developed feelings for each other after being beaten up? Alright, that's not wrong at all. After all, Little Black paid the price of his own blood to chase after this girl. Originally, they planned to wait for Good Heart to return before officially becoming Dao companions. Lan Hua glanced at Shening. But I didn't expect Little Black to disappear just like that. It's all my fault. I mistakenly believed that person's words about Little Black's whereabouts, so I left the sect on my own. Yu Hong's face was full of guilt. That caused everyone to be trapped in the demon world, your disciple. Before she could finish, she suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, and her body became unstable. Your injuries are too serious. Focus on recuperating and don't move. Lone Moon frowned and stopped her from getting up. I think I know what happened. It's really not your fault. No, it's all my fault. The guilt on her face deepened, and her face became paler and paler. Blood flowed uncontrollably from the corner of her mouth, and even the immortal chi in her body began to dissipate. What's going on? Lone Moon was shocked. He also saw that there was something wrong with her body. He checked her meridians and found that all of them were broken. Even her primordial spirit was beginning to collapse. How could this be? Her injuries were the lightest just now. Logically speaking, she should be fine after recuperating. Why was her condition more serious than the others? Chapter 343. Lone Moon was just about to conjure a seal when Shening suddenly stood up and pulled the person on the ground up. Her hand suddenly went through Yu Hong's chest, as if she had grabbed onto something and pulled it out. Yu Hong felt her whole body relax. She heaved a long sigh of relief. The suffocating feeling that had been entangled in her heart disappeared. Sect Master. She looked up in confusion. She realized that there was a purple thing in Shen Ying's hand. It looked like smoke condensed in her palm. Shen Ying, what is this? Lo Mun's eyes widened. He looked at the thing in her hand. When he checked earlier, he did not find anything else in their bodies. He turned to look at the others. Even Yu Hong looked confused. This looks like an extremely thick immortal spirit qi. I Ching frowned as well. He looked at the purple qi. This aura was even thicker than god power. It can't be another invader, can it? Lone Moon thought of the pregnancy. Pui, the spring of life. He quickly used his assistant's authority to check, only to find that there was no reaction. I don't know. Shening shook her head. Just as she was about to say something, the ground suddenly shook. As if something had been triggered, white light shone all around. A huge protective barrier appeared in front of them, surrounding the entire heavenly palace. It's the protective mountain array. Lan Hua paled. He looked at the three of them. The people from the demon world have caught up. Good. Lone Moon snorted. We haven't even gone to find them. But they've come to us. Outside the heavenly palace, the sky was dark. A huge patch of demonic qi covered the sky above the heavenly palace. Rows of demonic troops surrounded it. They surrounded the entire invincible heavenly palace. Leading them were the 10 sky fiends. Their demonic qi was shocking. Behind them were a row of invincible heavenly disciples. All of them looked very disheveled. They seemed to be seriously injured. Some were even half kneeling in the clouds, as if they did not have the strength to stand up. The sky fiends looked at each other. They looked at the heavenly palace in front of them. They seemed to remember something. For some reason, they felt a little guilty. The invincible heavenly palace had the best relationship with the demon world. The sky fiends often interacted with each other. However, this was the new demon king's order, and they had to carry it out. What's more, now that all the disciples of Invincible sect had been captured, as long as they seized the opportunity to take down the heavenly palace, it would only be a matter of time before they unified the 3 realms. Thinking of this, the sky fiends made up their minds and directly shouted towards the sky palace. Emperor Lan Hua, we are here to bring our queen back to the palace. Please hand her over. We will not make things difficult for you. There was no response from the heavenly palace. The sky fiends were hesitant to attack. Among the 10, a demon who had just ascended to become a heaven demon suggested, fellow demon sovereigns, why waste your breath on them? Their people are in our hands. If we kill a few of them, they'll come out. As he spoke, he directly grabbed a dying disciple next to him and grabbed him by the neck with one hand. He threatened loudly, Lan Hua, you coward. Don't think that you'll be fine just because you've escaped. If you know what's good for you, hurry up and hand over Yu Hong. Otherwise, we'll kill one of your disciples every second, until your entire sect is slaughtered. How dare you? As soon as he finished speaking, 2 white figures appeared at the entrance of the heavenly palace. They looked very unfamiliar, and their bodies were filled with shocking sword qi. The sky fiends were stunned. For a moment, they did not know who these 2 people were. But the eyes of those invincible heavenly palace disciples lit up. It was as if they had seen a miracle. One by one they exclaimed, Elder! Who are you people? The sky fiends scanned the 2 people warily. These 2 were also Invincible sect disciples. But didn't Invincible sect cultivate body cultivators? Why did these 2 people have sword qi all over their bodies? You're the 10 sky fiends? That's true. It's been thousands of years. It's normal that you don't remember. Lone Moon looked at the disciples in the sky. His eyes darkened. But there's one person you must remember. Shen. He turned to call for help, but realized that there was no one behind him. His mouth twitched. He shouted at the figure on his right, who was walking further and further away. Wait. Where are you going? We're over here. He really could get lost if he was not careful. Oh. Everyone only heard a lazy echo, followed by a series of footsteps. After a while, the figure of a woman came out of the heavenly pillar. She walked over as if she was taking a stroll, holding a half-eaten fruit in her hand. When they saw who it was, the sky fiends froze. It was as if a bolt of lightning had struck their minds. Their legs turned to jelly. Did they see wrongly? Were they blind? Sect Master! All the disciples exclaimed in unison. The light in their eyes was blinding. Sect Master? Isn't your sect master Lan Hua? When did you change your sect master? The person who had just become a sky fiend snorted coldly. Forget it. If you know what's good for you, hand the person over. I can still spare your life. Otherwise, when we slaughter. Aya. Before he could finish speaking, a sky fiend standing beside him suddenly kicked him hard. He almost kicked him down from the clouds. Emokuen, what are you doing? The new heavenly demon was instantly enraged. Just as he was about to ask for clarification, the other heavenly demons seemed to have been turned on by the kick, and they all charged forward to give the new heavenly demon a good beating. Wait, what are you doing? Stop. Ah, damn it. Don't court death if you don't know the situation. Even if you court death, don't implicate us. They thought of the injury that they had not fully recovered from for 500 years. They felt waves of pain all over their bodies. Shut up. How can you be so rude? That's right, that's right. You're the scum of the demon race, to speak to the Almighty like that. Damn it. The newcomer has no manners. I can't stand it if I don't teach him a lesson. He still has the cheek to cry out in pain. Beat him. Beat him hard. He's a disgrace to the demon race. Beat him to death. We have to beat him to death. The Sky Fiends did not hesitate to beat him up. They beat him up so badly that the entire heavenly palace reverberated with the screams of the Sky Fiends. Shening, Lone Moon, I Ching, all the confused Sky Fiends. Speaking of which, what were they doing? This 9 versus 1 group fight lasted for more than 10 minutes. It was only when a certain new Sky Fiend could no longer make a sound that the 9 of them stopped, filled with righteous indignation. Then, they all knelt in front of Shening and shouted, "Great Goddess, we were wrong." The 9 people who were beating people up just a moment ago were now crying bitterly and howling deeply. "Great Goddess, the Demon King made me do this." "Yes, Great Goddess, the Demon King forced us to do this. We are all good demons. We never thought of attacking the immortal world. The Demon King is not a demon at all. We had no choice." Yes. He even wanted to marry the former Demon King's little Hong. He's too shameless. The more the demons cried, the sadder they became. Their bodies trembled like leaves in the wind. Chapter 344. Alright. Loman's mouth twitched. Did the Demon King know that they surrendered so easily? He thought that they would have to fight no matter what. He didn't expect that the moment Shening appeared, the enemy would admit defeat. How big was the trauma in their hearts back then? Let them go first. Yes. All the Sky Fiends nodded like chickens pecking at rice. They hurriedly waved at the demons behind them. Hurry up and send them. Apui, please come down. Only then did the demon army send down the row of disciples that they had originally planned to use as hostages. Lone Moon counted the number of people and realized that there were only tens of disciples that they had captured. His heart sank. Where are the others? Elder, they are still in the demon palace. A disciple answered. His expression darkened. He turned to look at the 9 demons who were still kneeling at the side. The few of them trembled even more. We don't know either. They were all captured by the Demon King using an array formation. Lone Moon frowned and glanced at the disciples in front of him. He gave I Ching a look. Chef, I'll bring him in first. You and Shening trap the people outside. I Ching nodded and directly went forward to set up an array formation, trapping the demon army in place. He set up an array formation of the array race. Naturally, the demons could not break out. He turned and carried the 9 demons back. When they returned to the backyard, the disciples had already settled down. Most of them were seriously injured. Some even injured their immortal bones. Fortunately, the sect did not lack pills. They just needed to rest for a period of time. Lone Moon was more worried about the disciples who had not returned to the sect. Speak, what happened in the demon world? Lone Moon, Shening and Chef sat at the dining table and looked at the 9 Sky Fiends who were kneeling down again. The 9 Sky Fiends looked at each other and shook their heads. We don't know either. We haven't seen Li Yin since a few months ago. Who is Li Yin? The 3 of them were stunned. That's Demon King Little Black. The 9 demons hurriedly explained. Air. They were so used to calling him Little Black that they forgot he had a name. What happened to him? The last time we saw the former Demon King Li'in was when he ordered the entire demon palace to prepare the dowry within 3 months. It turned out that Xiaohe was quite interested in Yu Hong. Wait, dowry? Lone Moon hesitated. Wasn't that a betrothal gift? The corner of Lan Hua's mouth twitched as he healed his disciple. He suddenly interjected. It was Yu Hong who told him that she would not marry him if kindness and all of you weren't here, so he plans to marry into the family? Lone Moon was speechless. Little Black was really going all out in order to get rid of a single partner. It seemed like that Demon King also ran away with his wife, right? Were all Demon Kings so unreliable? Why was he suddenly worried about the future of the demon race? And then, when we were ready and went to report, the entire demon palace couldn't find any trace of him. It was as if he had suddenly disappeared. Then what's up with this new Demon King? The new Demon King also suddenly appeared in the demon realm. We don't know where he came from. His cultivation level is very high. Even the 10 Sky Fiends combined couldn't defeat him. The 9 demons continued to explain. According to the rules of the demon race, he indeed has the right to become a Demon King. Originally, we wanted to inform the Invincible sect about Demon King Little Black's disappearance. But the new Demon King said that there was no need to go through so much trouble. He said that the marriage could continue. He also said that he would personally explain to Lady Xiaohong. We didn't expect. They didn't expect that the other party would directly capture Yu Hong and severely injure Lan Hua, who chased after them, causing all the disciples of the sect to go to the demon palace. The 9 demons looked up at Shenning weakly before continuing. Initially, we thought that this new Demon King was only interested in Lady Yu Hong. We didn't expect that he would really attack the Bo Si Heavenly Palace directly. The other devils all nodded in agreement and began to grumble one after another. Actually, we didn't want to come either. But the Demon King said that he wanted to kill those disciples who were injured. We could only persuade those disciples to stay as hostages. Then we brought the demon army here. Yes. We haven't fought for many years. We haven't wanted to fight for a long time. That's right. I just received the travel permit to go to Fengsong continent last month. I wanted to take advantage of the Demon King's wedding to go out and play. Yes. It wasn't easy for me to pull some strings to ask for immortal wine from Cloud Sea continent. Once the fight starts, I won't be able to drink it. What do you mean? I still have to attend the 10 Directions Continent's Immortal Peach Feast tomorrow. The more the 9 demons spoke, the sadder they became. All of them had a look of resentment, as if they were fighting a war. Lone Moon frowned, looking at this group of demons in front of him, who had no intention of fighting at all. He silently lit a candle for the ancestors of the demon world. Suddenly, he felt that in these few thousand years, the immortal world and demon world had merged too quickly. But thinking about Little Black, it suddenly wasn't strange. Actually, he could tell just now that these few people really had no intention of attacking Invincible sect. Otherwise, they wouldn't have pulled a black mass of people and just shouted outside without doing anything. Although the protective mountain array outside Invincible Heavenly Palace was powerful, it couldn't withstand the combined attack of 10 Sky Fiends. Of course, except for a certain Sky Fiend, who didn't know the truth, and was defeated by his own people. Moreover, they didn't know that Shining had already returned. The reason why they didn't come in was most likely because they didn't want to fight this battle. But for the sake of the Demon King's reputation, they had to come and shout. Where are the remaining disciples of my sect locked up? Lone Moon asked. In the Demon Palace's dungeon. A Sky Fiend immediately raised his hand and answered. Exalted Goddess, are you going to the demon world to save people? Now, I can lead the way. Me too. The other Sky Fiends nodded immediately and started discussing. Their eyes were full of excitement, as if the other party wasn't going to destroy their nest, but to help them. I'm the most familiar with the dungeon. I even know the secret passages. I know too. They're locked up on the 3rd floor of the dungeon, the deepest part. Yes, the new Demon King must be in the Demon Palace now. I can bring Exalted Goddess in. Why don't we just fight our way back? I've long disliked him. That's right. Although Great Immortal doesn't need our help, I can cheer for Exalted Goddess. And also, Shining, Lone Moon, I Ching. Is it really good for you to sell out the Demon King so thoroughly? He suddenly felt like lighting a candle for the new Demon King. Chef, come with me to save people. Lone Moon randomly picked a sky fiend to lead the way. Then, he looked at Lan Hua and said, Boss Lan, I'll leave these disciples to you. All right. Lan Hua nodded. Exalted. Exalted Goddess isn't going? The sky fiend who was picked glanced at Shining, who was already sprawled on the table, and then at Lone Moon. Instantly he looked worried. The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. What was with that suspicious look? Couldn't they do without Shining and the others? After all, they had been in the divine world before. All right? They were just taking care of a little demon king. Moreover, everyone in the sect was injured. It was more suitable for Shining to stay here. Lone Moon told them some things to take note of. Without further ado, he shouted at I Ching, Chef, let's go. Chef turned and took out a storage bag of food. He passed it to Shining, who was beside him, and then flew up on his sword to the demon world to save people. Chapter 345. Late at night. Invincible Sex Side Hall. Yu Hong was meditating to regulate her breathing. Perhaps it was because of the strange purple qi in her body. Even though it was cleared by Shining, her body was still heavily injured, especially her primordial spirit. Lone Moon had barely helped her suppress it before. If she wanted to recover, she had to rely on herself. She released her divine perception and used all her strength to mobilize the immortal qi to slowly nourish her primordial spirit. In a short while, her forehead was already covered in sweat, and her face was beginning to pale. She could not afford to be distracted by the matter of nourishing her primordial spirit. She devoted herself to it. That was why she did not notice the wisp of black qi that suddenly appeared in the room. The black gas slowly condensed, and the air suddenly twisted. A hole quietly opened up, and a figure stepped out from it. Demonic qi flowed out of his body, and instantly filled the entire room. Yu Hong finally felt the invasion of the demonic qi. She stopped regulating her breathing, and subconsciously thought that Lan Hua had come. Lan! She had just looked up when she saw a wave of demonic qi coming towards her. She was shocked. The next moment, the defensive Dharma artifact on her body lit up, and blocked the demonic qi. Only then did she see the person in front of her clearly. It was a man in blue, covered in black qi. His hair was messy and his eyes were red. His expression was full of madness. He was staring straight at her, his eyes full of hatred. It's you. Yu Hong was shocked and immediately wanted to crush the message talisman beside her. However, the person was one step ahead of her. A wave of devil qi shot over and directly hit her arm. With another wave of his hand, the surrounding devil qi instantly turned into black ropes, and directly tied Yu Hong up tightly. Yu Hong felt the immortal qi in her body stagnate. She could not mobilize it no matter what. She looked up at the person in front of her. What exactly do you want? The person who came was the new Demon King. Lone Moon and Elder I Ching had already rushed to the demon world. They did not expect him to appear here. Give it to me. The person turned and went to Yu Hong's side. He stretched out his hand and pulled her up. Then he began to scan her anxiously. His eyes widened. They were the color of blood. He looked more and more crazy. Where is it? Why isn't it here? Where is it? What thing? Yu Hong was already seriously injured. Coupled with the invasion of the demonic qi, she could not resist at all. The thing that you took. Hurry up and give it to me, the man demanded again. I didn't. Yu Hong wanted to refute, but suddenly thought of something. Are you talking about the Dharma artifact jade hairpin that little black gave me? He came to Invincible Sect because of that? That's not something you should be taking. Give it to me. He tightened his grip. Yu Hong's expression darkened. You have indeed seen Little Black. Where is he? Humph. Shaw wants something that doesn't belong to him. He deserves to die. The other party's red eyes became even more intense. Give it back to me. What did you do to him? Yu Hong panicked and began to struggle, but she could not get rid of the demonic qi around her. Let me go. That artifact belongs to the treasury of the Devil Palace. When did it become yours? You stole it from me. Your entire world is filled with thieves. The more he spoke, the crazier he became. The demonic aura around his body became even more intense, as if he wanted to destroy the world. Give it back to me. I didn't. You destroyed that hairpin with your own hands last time. What's inside? You called out. What? Yu Hong was stunned. There was something in the hairpin. What was it? Where did it go? Where did you hide it? He asked in an even louder voice. I don't know what you're talking about. What is it? What are you looking for? It was on you just now. Give it back to me. He retracted his hand. Instantly, the demonic chi wrapped around Yu Hong even tighter. Otherwise, I will massacre your sect right now. I say. Suddenly, a lazy voice sounded beside his ear. It's not good for you to raise such a flag in front of me, right? Who is it? The man was shocked. Only then did he see Shining beside him. She was sitting on the side of the bed, less than 3 steps away from him. There was a half-grown radish lying on her back, sleeping soundly. For a moment, the whole room was filled with a certain radish's snoring. Who are you? Why are you here? I've been here the whole time. Shining tilted her head. She had been listening for a long time. The man's heart sank. He actually did not notice her at all. More importantly, he could not see through her cultivation level. He could only faintly feel a pressure that he could not resist. With a change of heart, he immediately sent a wave of demonic chi over. At the same time, he conjured a seal and drew a line in the air. He wanted to cut open the void, but found that there was no reaction at all. The space that he could usually cut open suddenly had no connection with. He was shocked. He understood that he might not be able to deal with the person in front of him. He grabbed her and turned to rush out, intending to escape. But he felt an empty space beside him. He turned and saw that Yu Hong, whom he was still holding on to, had disappeared. Instead, she appeared beside the woman from before. He immediately stopped in his tracks. Shining casually pulled out Yu Hong, who was wrapped in a cocoon by the demonic chi, and the surrounding demonic chi dissipated. Sect Master? Yu Hong was stunned. Her eyes lit up. Why are you here? Oh, Radish is snoring. Shining casually plucked the radish off her back and threw it on the bed. I couldn't sleep, so I brought it here. Radish rolled around on the bed, still not awake. But subconsciously, it rolled back and began to climb onto Xin Ying's back. Alright, this vegetable had been upgraded from an accessory on her leg to an accessory on her back. Return the thing to me. The person who had just rushed out came back again. He looked at the two of them angrily, demonic chi emanating from his body. Otherwise, both of you will die here. Sect Master. He is the new Demon King. Yu Hong was shocked. She shouted a warning and turned to look at the person. I don't know what you're talking about. You still want to lie? That thing was clearly on you the last time. The person became even angrier. He glared in Yu Hong's direction. This world is indeed full of disgusting people. That Dharma hairpin has already been destroyed by you. Even if there was something, it should be with you. If you didn't steal it, who else could it be? You must have hidden it. You're talking about. Shining suddenly interrupted. Is it this? She suddenly reached out a hand. There was still a ball of purple chi in her palm. It was the same ball that she had pulled out from Xiao Hong's body during the day. The man's eyes widened. The red glow in his eyes deepened. He stared straight at the ball of purple chi in Xin Ying's hand. His expression became more and more crazed. It was as if he had swallowed his last bit of rationality. Purple chi. It's mine. Return it to me. With that said, he rushed over without a care. The demonic chi around his body surged. A thick layer of black rushed toward the two of them. Just as it was about to swallow the two of them, the demonic chi suddenly stopped. It seemed to be blocked by something. It stopped a meter away from Shining. No matter how hard the man tried, it could not move an inch. The man frowned. He turned his hand, and a long black sword appeared. He stabbed it toward the opposite side. Chapter 346. The sword was about to pierce the two of them. Shining suddenly raised her hand to block it. There was a series of cracking sounds as the sharp demonic sword suddenly broke into pieces. The other party was shocked, but her hand did not stop. Instead, she grabbed his hand. The next moment, he felt as if the world was spinning. There was a loud bang in the room. The new Demon King had been smashed onto the ground. The demonic chi on his body dissipated. Speak properly. The other party did not seem to feel any pain. He began to struggle crazily, still shouting, "Give it back to me, give it back to me, liar. You are all liars. Destroy, destroy you." Suddenly, the demonic chi that had just dissipated surged again. His entire body was wrapped up by the demonic chi. Even his body seemed to be melting into the black chi. It looked like he was being swallowed by the demonic chi. Seeing that the other party was about to be completely swallowed by the demonic chi, Shening frowned. She squatted down and pulled him up. Her eyes narrowed. The thick demonic chi seemed to be driven away by light. It dissipated instantly. Even the demonic chi on the other party's body disappeared. Yu Hong's legs turned to jelly. She held onto the wall to stop herself from kneeling down. Was it an illusion? Why did it feel like there was an indescribably huge aura on the sect master at that moment? Before she could think about it, she saw that the crazy Demon King had already fallen to the ground. There was no demonic chi around his blue robe, but there was a familiar, immortal chi. Yu Hong was shocked. How is this possible? Could there be people who practice both immortal and demonic cultivation in this world? The other party knelt on the ground. He seemed to be trying hard to stand up, but he had no energy at all. After the demonic chi dissipated, his aura was so weak that it was almost invisible. He was weaker than an ordinary earth immortal. He looked like he was going to die the next moment. The crazed look in his eyes had disappeared. His eyes returned to their original black color. But he was still looking at the purple ball in Shen Ying's hand. "Little Hong, do you have the pill that recovers immortal chi?" Shen Ying suddenly turned to look at Yu Hong. Yu Hong paused. Then she reacted and hurriedly nodded. "Yes." She turned and picked up a bottle from the cabinet. She poured out a pill and handed it to the person on the ground. The other party did not take it. Instead, he glared at Yu Hong. Yu Hong didn't waste time talking to him, and directly stuffed it into his mouth. In the next moment, the originally weak immortal chi in his body began to slowly fill up, and his pale face also recovered a little. "Master, he's not a demon." Looking at the changes in the other party's body, Yu Hong finally reacted. That was an elixir to replenish immortal chi. A demon should not be able to withstand immortal chi at all. Yet he was recovering. Shening nodded. But just now his entire body was clearly filled with devil chi. Aren't only demons able to control devil chi? Previously, he had clearly used devil chi, and even Lan Hua couldn't beat him. It's not an urge. Yu Hong paused, not understanding what she meant. He's not the one controlling the demonic chi. Shening thought for a moment, then added, "The demonic chi is attacking him." "What?" Shening did not continue to explain. She sat down on a chair at the side and looked at the man on the ground lazily. "All right, tell me your story." The other party's expression stiffened. She did not know what he was thinking, but he suddenly smiled coldly at her, looking like he did not want to speak at all. Shening suddenly tossed the ball of purple chi in her hand. "If you tell me a good story, I'll give this to you." "You?" His eyes immediately stared at her hand. His whole body tensed up, and his expression became darker and darker. He seemed to be extremely angry, and also seemed to be desolate, and also seemed to be helpless after resisting. "What do you want to know? What is this?" Shening waved the ball of purple chi in her hand, then turned to look at him. "And what are you?" His eyes widened, and something flashed across them. "This purple chi is my Dharma treasure. With it, I can cultivate both immortality and demonic. I just want to get back what belongs to me." "Oh, I see." Shening immediately kept the purple chi. Holding her chin with one hand, she looked at the man on the ground and narrowed her eyes. A moment later she said, "Then let me change my question. Which plane did you come from?" Lone Moon and I Ching only spent a day's time, and did not even meet with any resistance before they rescued the rest of the people from the sect. It had to be said that this new Demon King was quite a failure. It was also possible that he did not even consider governing the demonic world at all. But what exactly was his motive? Did he say? I Ching looked at Lone Moon. He won't say anything. Lone Moon shook his head and nudged the person beside him. Shening, are you sure that this new demon king is also an invader? I'm not sure. Shening shook her head. Lone Moon's expression darkened. Then why are you asking me to ask? His data is very strange. Shening tilted her head. A moment later she said, half and half. What do you mean? What half and half? Half is the same as the immortals of this world. The other half is abnormal. There was such a thing. The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. He can't be a mixed blood, can he? An invader came over and had descendants or something like that. There are no mixed bloods in this plane. Shening broke his thoughts. The plane belongs to only one person. Even Father Niu, who became an assistant, only changed the plane he belonged to. He could not belong to two planes at the same time. Then what's going on with this person? I don't know. Shening shook her head. This was the first time she had seen such a situation. After thinking about it, she turned her hand and took out that ball of purple gas. She could analyze it. This is what the new Demon King is looking for. Lone Moon glanced at the ball of purple gas in her hand. I wonder what it is. I Ching also asked. I don't know for now. Shening shook her head. She thought of something and turned to look at Lone Moon. Father Niu, did you find Little Black? Lone Moon faltered. He exchanged a look with I Ching. His eyes darkened. Then he replied, no, we really did not sense his aura. I'm afraid. He did not continue. In history, when a new Demon King was crowned, it must be when the original Demon King was already dead. Those heavenly demons probably already knew that Little Black was probably already dead. No, Shening retorted. That person can't kill Little Black. Why? Lone Moon faltered. Shening did not answer directly. Instead she asked, have you searched the treasure trove? What? Lone Moon faltered. We went to save people, not to raid their houses. Why would we search their treasure trove? He stopped mid-sentence. He suddenly understood what Shening meant. That ball of purple gas was found in Yu Hong's body. When the new Demon King first caught her, he was only looking for that hairpin. That meant that the purple gas entered Yu Hong's body from that hairpin. And that hairpin was picked out by Little Black from the treasure trove. Little Black's disappearance could really be related to that treasure trove. Chapter 347. But only the Demon King knows where the Demon King's treasury is. We can't find it even if we wanted to. There are others who know, Shening said. Lone Moon was stunned. His eyes widened. Yu Hong. That's right. Others might not know, but Yu Hong definitely knew. Little Black was secretly thinking of marrying her over. There was no reason for him not to hand over his wife. I'll go get her. Lone Moon immediately turned and went to the side hall. In a short while, he returned with a sorrowful Yu Hong. Her eyes were still red, as if she had just cried. Sect Master. She bowed respectfully. Little Black did tell me where the treasury is. As she spoke, she directly took out her natal Dharma artifact and pointed at an incongruous Dharma seal on it. He once carved this Dharma seal on my sword, saying that it was the key to opening the treasury. She seemed to recall something, and the sadness in her eyes deepened. But I have never tried it. Yu Hong, there might be clues about Little Black in the treasury. Do you mind opening it for us? Lone Moon asked. Little Black. Yu Hong was stunned. No wonder, he was really still alive. A look of joy flashed across her face. Yes, of course. I'll open it now. She nodded hard and conjured a seal. The array on the sword lit up and emitted a faint white light. Yu Hong waved her sword in front of her. Instantly, a white entrance that looked like a mystic realm appeared in the air. The few of them looked at each other and walked in. In the blink of an eye, the few of them arrived at another place. Although it was called a treasury, it was actually a small mystic realm inside. But inside the mystic realm, flowers were everywhere. The sky was filled with a rain of flowers that fell from the sky, covering their heads and faces. There were rows of immortal trees in full bloom everywhere. At first glance, it looked like there was a thick layer of pink clouds floating around. It was like a young girl's heart was about to burst. The few of them were stunned by this pink sea. They did not expect the Demon King to be such a little black. Until they saw the small building in the forest. There was a plaque hanging high in front of the building. On it, a row of eye-catching golden words were written. Little Hong and Little Black will always be together. On the pillar beside it, there were 2 rows of golden words. On the left it read forever. On the right it read, embrace twice in 3 years. Shening. Lone Moon. I Ching. Winky face that was simple and straightforward. Little Black's education was really close to the average of all the Demon Kings. He suddenly understood why the demon race had never succeeded in conquering the immortal world despite being stronger than the immortal race. Being uneducated was killing. The corner of Yu Hong's mouth twitched. She couldn't hold back the sword in her hand. She turned it into a sword and slashed it, cutting the board into 2. He tore off the couplet on the side and stomped on it twice before pushing the door open and walking in. It was just an ordinary hut inside, decorated warmly. It seemed that a lot of thought had been put into it, but it was still a blinding pink. Moreover, the walls were filled with portraits. In the portraits, there were people practicing swordsmanship, people reading, people writing, people sleeping and resting. There were all kinds of postures, but without exception, they were all portraits of Yu Hong. Moreover, those were not ordinary paintings, but real images that were directly left behind using a shadow recording spell. They looked like JPG pictures that could move. The 3 of them pursed their lips. How many times did Yu Hong King take a peek to collect so many paintings? For some reason he felt sorry for Yu Hong. What was going on? Yu Hong's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. She clenched her fists tightly. She was trying her best to resist the urge to smash the place. Ahem. Well, the real treasure trove should be at the back of the mountain. Lone Moon pointed outside and changed the topic. The few of them left the building. They passed through the sea of flowers and arrived at the back of the mountain. A huge stone door appeared in front of them. It was embedded into the stone wall. There were all kinds of defensive arrays on it. Lone Moon observed it for a while. Then he undid the arrays. With a rumbling sound, the 2 stone doors opened outwards. A cold aura came from inside. It carried with it traces of demonic qi. After all, this was the treasure trove of the demon race. There were many Dharma artifacts that belonged to the demon race. Lone Moon instructed Yu Hong to set up the defensive arrays. Then he walked in. The treasure trove was huge. It was filled with all kinds of rare treasures. Some of them were so old that it was hard to tell what kind of Dharma artifacts they were. The strange thing was that there were not only demonic artifacts. There were also Dharma artifacts that the immortal race could use. There were only a few of them. They were placed on the right side, compared to the Dharma artifacts that were thrown everywhere. These immortal artifacts were carefully placed on special shelves. There were even protective arrays around them. There were also ribbons, fans, hairpins, bells, and other immortal artifacts that women often used. One look, and one could tell who they were for. Yu Hong's heart skipped a beat. Her eyes darkened. She walked over, and was about to pick one up to take a closer look. But she saw a small line of words beside it. Kiss Madam Little Hong. She tightened her grip on the sword in her hand. She had the urge to smash it. I didn't expect you to chase me all the way here. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out. It was firm and unquestionable. Give up. I prepared those for Little Hong. I will never give you the dowry. Shening. Lone Moon. I Ching. Yu Hong. As soon as the voice finished speaking, a sword came from the innermost direction. It was heading straight for the 3 of them. Little Black. Yu Hong could not help but call out. As soon as she finished speaking, a black figure suddenly rushed out. It was faster than the demonic sword. There was a loud thud. The sword hit the black figure. But he did not seem to feel it. He turned around and hugged the person in front of him. Little Hong. It's really you. The person hugged Yu Hong tightly. That's great. You're finally here. I missed you so much. I knew you would remember that I was here. You're all right. Yu Hong was stunned. She looked at the person in front of her in disbelief. No. I'm just trapped in this mystic realm. Little Black hugged her even tighter. It's good that you came in. This way, I can go out and marry you. Little Hong, I missed you so much. He pouted and was about to kiss her. The crowd at the side. Cough. Lo Moon could not help but cough. Please control yourself. Little Black paused. He turned to look at the three people beside him. Hey, Little Hong, you brought someone in dash. Before he could finish speaking, his whole body stiffened. Shening waved her hand out of habit. Hey, Little Black. The next moment, he felt his legs weaken. He knelt down with a thud. Chapter 348. Invincible Heavenly Palace Rear Hall. A certain demon king knelt on the ground with tears all over his face, howling with grief. Exalted goddess, I really like Little Hong. Please don't break us up. Exalted goddess, I was the one who seduced Little Hong. This has nothing to do with her. If you want to beat me, then beat me to death. Exalted goddess, even if you kill me, I want to be with her. Exalted goddess, why don't I stop being a demon and join Invincible sect? Exalted goddess, will you allow me to marry into your family? Go. Alright, stop howling. Lone Moon really could not bear to listen to this anymore. Look at his crying and sniveling face. Did he still remember that he was the king of a realm? When did we say that you were not going to be together? Little Black paused for a moment before raising his head. Do you agree? He looked at Shening, who had already started eating, and had no time to talk to him. Then he looked at Yu Hong, who had already turned her head away, her face full of, I don't know this guy. Only then did he understand what was going on. In an instant his entire face lit up, and he smiled like a fool. Ha. I knew that the exalted goddess was the most understanding and reasonable person. She would definitely grant our wish. Xiao He was touched. He turned around and opened his arms to Yu Hong. Xiao Hong, we can finally be together. Get lost. Yu Hong kicked him, seriously suspecting that she was blind. Alright, tell me, why was your cultivation sealed? And why are you hiding in your own treasure vault mystic realm? Lone Moon asked directly. I don't know who that person is. The Demon King hurriedly explained. A few months ago, I planned to bring my dowry to see Little Red. As soon as they left the demon world, that person rushed out. He insisted that I took his things, and then we fought. I wouldn't have lost to him, but I don't know how he did it. My devil chi suddenly couldn't circulate, so I hid in the treasure vault. Later on, I found out that I couldn't even open the treasure trove. Then you guys came. Is the person you met the current new Demon King? What new Demon King? Blackie was stunned, as if he was completely unaware that the other party had replaced him as the Demon King. Lone Moon thought for a moment and raised his hand to summon a shadow. It transformed into the image of the person locked in the dungeon. Is it this person? It's him. Little Black immediately stood up and pointed at the shadow. He's the one who sneak attacked me. He is the current Demon King of the demon world, Lone Moon said. What? Blackie was startled and looked as if he wanted to beat the other party up. After a while, he thought of something and his anger disappeared. Forget it. I don't plan to be the Demon King anyway. It doesn't matter who becomes the Demon King. He already had Little Red, With this thought in mind, he glanced at Little Red beside him, and his face turned red. He immediately put on a satisfied expression. Everyone. King retard. Wait. That's not right. Before his IQ completely went offline, Black suddenly thought of a question. He's not a demon, so how did he become a Demon King? He's indeed not a demon. Seeing that his IQ had gone back online, Lone Moon continued asking. Think carefully. When he attacked you, did he say anything else? Or did he mention anything about his motives? Blackie thought about it carefully, and then shook his head. No, he only asked me to return something to him. I don't even know him. How would I know what he was talking about? What dowry did you prepare? Shening suddenly asked. Blackie was stunned and subconsciously covered the storage bag beside him. Exalted goddess, this is what I was going to give to Little Red. With that said, he weakly leaned towards Yu Hong. The corner of Yu Hong's mouth twitched. She turned and kicked him again in disdain. Take it out. All right. Blackie opened the storage bag pitifully and took out the items one by one. There were items as big as pills, talismans, arrays, and weapons, as small as tables, chairs, bowls, ladles, and pans. Everything that one could think of was there. In a short while, everything was placed all over the floor. Everyone. This guy must have emptied the entire demon palace. Have you ever thought about how the next demon king would feel? That's enough, that's enough. Lone Moon frowned and hurriedly stopped him from taking out the entire demon palace. What we mean is, are there any special Dharma artifacts, especially jewelry, like the hairpin you gave to Yu Hong as a token of love? Blackie was stunned. Suddenly he thought of something. His eyes lit up and he nodded vigorously. Yes, yes, yes. With that said, he took out a big antique box. It seemed to be very old, and there were some characters carved on it that Lone Moon did not understand. He opened the box and immediately, a neat box of Dharma artifacts appeared. There were earrings, necklaces, rings, and so on. There were more than 10 of them in total. This is a set. I was going to give it to Little Red when we got married, and let her pass it on to our children, he said proudly. He explained the items one by one. This can be given to the eldest daughter, this is for the second daughter, this is for the third. Shut up. Lone Moon could not be bothered with this silly black who was blinded by love. He turned to look at Shining. Is this it? Shining walked over and looked at the exquisite jewelry and Dharma artifacts. With a turn of her hand, the ball of purple chi that she had taken from Yu Hong's body appeared in her palm. The moment the purple chi appeared, it was as if some mechanism had been activated. In an instant, the purple light shone brightly, and the originally indistinct chi suddenly began to spin. The Dharma artifacts in Blackie's hands also emitted bursts of purple light. They turned into light smoke and flowed towards the ball of purple chi in Xin Ying's hand. The chi became thicker and thicker. In less than a minute, it became bigger and bigger. In a short while, it had gathered into a ball the size of a blue ball. Immortal chi filled the surroundings. Immortal chi that was even thicker than God power appeared. Instantly, everyone felt as if they could not breathe. Shining and the other two were still fine. But Yu Hong and Blackie seemed to be unable to withstand such a huge amount of immortal chi. They were directly forced to their knees. Shining turned and took out a transparent cube box. She slapped it on the ball. Instantly, the thick ball of purple chi was absorbed into the cube. The immortal pressure around them disappeared. What was that? Lone Moon looked confused. If not for the assistant seal that cut off their connection to this plane, he and Chef would not have been able to withstand such a terrifying amount of immortal chi. This immortal chi, why does it seem to be thicker than God power? It was clearly just immortal chi. Shining frowned. This was the first time she had seen such a highly concentrated body of energy in this world. Master, it seems like that person's goal was this. I Ching looked into the box. Because the purple chi had disappeared, the color of the jewelry had obviously dimmed. The person who attacked Blackie and captured Yu Hong multiple times probably wanted these. Blackie, where did you get the Dharma artifacts in this box? Lone Moon asked. Blackie was stunned. Only then did he recover from the huge immortal pressure. He answered matter-of-factly. I snatched them from the Demon King. You mean the former Demon King Zhanting? The wife-slave number 1 who faked her death and eloped with Cui Hua? Yes. Blackie nodded. After thinking for a while, he shook his head. No, that's not right. What do you mean? Was it or was it not? The demon kings of the demon race all ascended to the throne by defeating the former demon king. Blackie explained. This thing was taken from Zhanting's treasure trove when I defeated him. It had been there for a long time. I only found it in a corner when I was cleaning it. He probably didn't even know he had this thing. So it's possible that he got it from the Demon King before that. Yes. He nodded. In other words, there was no way to find out what exactly this thing was? He looked carefully at the words on the box and turned to look at I Ching. Chef, do you understand the words on this? I Ching looked carefully and shook his head. I've never seen it before. After thinking for a while, he added, but there are many array formations on it. Some of them look like the divine race's concealment array. Concealment array? Was this why that person suddenly found Yu Hong and Xiao He? Because they took the thing inside out of the box? But if even Chef, who had the inheritance of the dragon race, couldn't understand the ancient words, who else could? Could it be that this thing really belonged to the invaders? Lone Moon thought of one person, and his eyes lit up. I'll go look for the God Fiend. He must know. With that said, he was about to open the God Fiend's divine realm when a disciple rushed in. Sect Master Elder. The disciple bowed to them and said anxiously, "The lady in the side hall is awake." Who? Lone Moon did not react for a moment. Where did this lady come from? The lady who came back with the elders 2 days ago. The disciple explained. After thinking for a while he added, "The lady who is pregnant." Pregnant, Jingqi. Shit, he had long forgotten about that Chinibyu. Just look after him. They had no time to deal with him now. No. No. The disciple became even more anxious and said with a troubled expression, "Did something happen to her?" "What?" Lone Moon was shocked. "Did she run away?" "No, no, no." The disciple shook his head and said with a conflicted expression, He's going to give birth." Ha! There was a sudden silence. The three of them looked like they were constipated. Only Little Black, who was at the side, looked confused. He raised his hand and said, "May I ask whose child is it?" "Shening." "Lone Moon." "I Ching." A moment later. "Let's go take a look." Lone Moon did not expect Jingqi to give birth so soon. It had only been a few days, not 3, right? Should they sigh and say that the spring of life really lived up to its name? This efficiency, this speed. The few of them turned and went to the side hall. Before they entered, they heard a loud scream from afar. It hurts so much. I'm going to die, it hurts so much." The few of them stopped in their tracks and found 2 female disciples standing helplessly at the door. The door was tightly shut. "What's the matter?" Lone Moon was stunned. "Why aren't you going in?" Elder. The disciple answered. She chased us out and didn't let us in." The other disciple nodded. "She also said that if we dared to take off her pants she would die. And we don't know how to deliver the baby." Everyone. Lone Moon imagined the image of the 2 female disciples taking off Jingqi's pants. His mouth twitched, and he suddenly felt a little pity for someone. For a moment, he did not know whether to go in or out. He turned back and asked, "Which one of you knows how to?" Before he could finish speaking, the 4 people behind him suddenly retreated out of the courtyard at lightning speed. "Father Nyo, all the best." "You can do it, Father Nyo." Elder Lone Moon, number 1 in the sect. Elder Lone Moon, there's nothing you can't do. The veins on Lone Moon's forehead popped. A moment later, "All of you get over here. If you want to go blind together. Don't think you can escape." Chapter 349. The few of them exchanged looks at each other at the door. The howling inside the room grew louder, accompanied by the sound of something rolling down. They had no choice but to bite the bullet and push the door open. The room was in a mess. The tables and chairs had all fallen to the ground. Jingqi had already rolled off the bed and onto the ground. He had completely lost his Chinibyu look from before. He was covered in sweat and had a huge belly in front of him. It was several times bigger than the one he saw a few days ago. He looked extremely wretched. His eyes were bloodshot, as if he had completely lost his mind from the pain. He was still trying to hit the wall beside him. Lone Moon hurriedly conjured a body-fixing seal to stop him from hurting himself. He then used a wind elemental sorcery to roll him back onto the bed. He wanted to seal his 5 senses to reduce his pain, but it did not seem to have any effect. He howled even louder, the kind that used all his strength. Thinking about it, it made sense. If sealing his 5 senses was useful, the disciples guarding the door would have used it long ago. It seemed that the spring water might have changed his body. "Save me! Save me!" Jingqi looked at the 4 people who came in. He did not care who they were. It was as if he was in extreme pain. Lone Moon thought for a moment. He turned to Yu Hong and said, "Yu Hong, go get a dagger and a basin of hot water." Yu Hong was stunned. She did not react for a moment. Shening asked, "Father Neo, are we going to have a cesarean section?" Nonsense. Lone Moon rolled his eyes. If we don't, how will he give birth? He made so much sense that they could not refute him. But they could understand the dagger. Hot water. What's the hot water for? How would I know? Lone Moon said directly. Isn't that what they always do in television dramas? Shunning. I Ching. They suddenly did not want to light candles for Jingqi. What should they do? Do you have any other way? Lone Moon asked. The four of them were stunned. They looked at each other and nodded like chickens pecking at rice. Father Nyo, you're right. Father Nyo, you're amazing. Elder Lone Moon, you're really knowledgeable. Elder Lone Moon, you know everything. Get lost. Lone Moon glared at the four of them. Hurry and get the things. I'll go right away. Yu Hong ran out with a whoosh. In a short while, she returned with the things that Lone Moon had instructed her to do, and placed them on the bedside cabinet. Watch him, don't let him move. Lone Moon instructed Little Black and I Ching to hold down the person on the bed, before picking up the dagger on the cabinet. He walked toward Jingqi and cheered himself on. It's okay, it's okay. I just need to cut a knife and take out the child, then use a water spell to heal him. It's very simple. Hands, don't tremble. He took a deep breath and watched as the dagger in his hand was about to land on his opponent's bulging belly. Suddenly, a dazzling white light shone from his round belly. His entire belly wriggled, as if something was about to break out of his body. Shen Ying's eyes narrowed. She turned to I Ching and shouted, Chef, take red and black away from here. Chef's reaction was extremely fast. Before the two of them could figure out who was red and who was black, he had already rushed out with Little Red and Little Black in tow. Then Lone Moon felt his collar tighten. His entire body fell backwards. He was directly pulled behind by Shining. In the next moment, the white light on Jingqi's belly seemed to have a physical form as it pierced out. With a series of piercing sounds, the entire side palace was like ice that had encountered high temperature. It dissipated instantly. An unfamiliar aura spread over. Before Lone Moon could react, he felt his heart stop. His entire body seemed to be under some kind of heavy pressure. He could not control himself and was about to collapse. Shining pulled him once more. Only then did the aura disappear. The two of them immediately retreated into the courtyard. But they found that the white light inside was getting brighter and brighter. It spread in all directions. Everywhere it passed, everything began to melt. It looked like a hole was about to be formed in the Sky Palace. What is this? Lone Moon's eyes widened in shock. Shining took out a transparent cube box out of nowhere and threw it towards the white light. In an instant, the box became bigger and sealed the entire side palace inside. Only then did the strange white light stop spreading. But the room just now had completely disappeared. All that was left was a patch of white. They could faintly see Jingqi's figure floating inside. His pig-like howling had already stopped. He was also completely motionless. Someone is coming, Shining suddenly said. What? Lone Moon was stunned. Before he could think carefully, in the next moment, he saw a distortion in the air. The only figure in the white light, Jingqi's belly, began to gather white light. As the space twisted, a faint hole appeared. And it was getting bigger and bigger. It was almost swallowing his entire body. A figure stepped out of the hole. It was a man dressed in a strange white robe. There were special patterns on it. His long golden hair was so long that it reached the ground. He had a chiseled face that looked like a statue from Western mythology. He looked up slightly and used his sapphire eyes to scan the two people in front of him arrogantly. More importantly, there was a huge pair of pure white wings on his back. He looked like a god from Western mythology. A new invader. Lone Moon's heart clenched. Before he could react, the other party suddenly spread his wings and flew up. The dazzling white light appeared again. In the next moment, an ethereal voice spread throughout the entire Sky Palace. Lost creatures from a different world, I am the highest god Light. I have come to bring you out of your suffering. Offer your humble heart, and become my servant. Light will always shine on you. Lone Moon. Shining. So this was a late-stage Shinibu? Straight face. The fellow who called himself the god of light did not seem to feel their hearts full of curses. He maintained his holy and noble appearance, and continued to transmit the heavenly voice with his head slightly raised. Dirty creatures from a different world. Your existence is the original sin. Evil has already corroded your souls. Only light can guide you forward. Kneel down and repent for your sins. I am the most benevolent God. Become my follower, and this world will be like the world under my protection. You will be bathed in light. The corner of Loman's mouth twitched. Which outdated Western fantasy novel did he get this kind of line from? I say, what on earth are you foolish sinners? The other party interrupted him and continued. Only by seeking refuge with the light can you wash away your sins. Otherwise, you will fall into hell forever. Come, offer your soul and loyalty. From now on, I am the only God in this world. Aya. Before he could finish speaking, a huge sword suddenly fell from the sky and smashed into his body with a clang. It directly slapped him down from the sky and made him gnaw on the ground. Following that, another wave of sword rain fell. The pretentious god was rooted to the ground. Chef, who had returned at some point, landed from the sky. He raised his leg and stepped on the man's body. The man who had just gotten up was trampled back into the mud. Shening. Lone Moon. Straight face, what a weak god of light. So those white lights just now, were they really just for showing off? Wait a minute. Chef, what are you doing? Why are you holding a knife? Lone Moon hurriedly ran over. You can't cut that pair of wings. The other party is an invader. Can you control your urge to look for ingredients? The kitchen knife in Chef's hand paused. He frowned and put it away. Then he silently summoned a deviant fire. You can't roast it either. I Ching finally let go of his hand with a look of pity. Shening sighed. What a pity. Pity my ass. Lone Moon glared at her. Wasn't it all because of you? He felt that ever since Chef went down to the lower realm, his habit of sparing no effort to stock up food for Shening had become more and more serious. Explain, what exactly is going on? Lone Moon glanced at a certain weak god who was still buried in the mud. Who exactly is this idiot? Shening also poked the person who had already fainted on the ground. Then she answered, he should be the manager of the world of Chinibu. Lone Moon. I Ching. What? Chapter 350. Invincible Heavenly Palace, Main Hall. Lone Moon sized up the figure in front of him, who was glowing with white light, and had special effects. He couldn't react. He had seen many managers like Shen Ying and her sister, but he didn't expect that there would be such a weakling among them. You are blaspheming the gods. The stupid god who had just woken up wiped the mud off his face and said angrily, you are disrespectful to me. You will forever be despised by the light, punished by the darkness, tortured by your souls, and... Swoosh. Before he could finish, Chef pulled out the sword in his hand. The other's face paled, and he swallowed back the sentence he was about to say. You want to kill a god? We didn't want to. Lone Moon looked at him and said, but if you don't speak properly, we don't mind killing you. Lone Moon finally understood where Jing Qi's delusional confidence came from. With a manager like this, it was hard not to be delusional. Tell me, what are you doing in this plane? Plane? He looked confused. What plane? Stop pretending. Lone Moon pointed at Shening. She is the manager of this plane, and we are her assistants. Manager? The stupid god became even more confused. He raised his head and glanced at Shening. What kind of god is a manager? Huh? Lone Moon paused. This situation wasn't right. He turned and pulled Shening, who was sitting on the chair beside him. What's going on? Didn't you say he was a manager too? Was there a manager who didn't know his own duties? Shening was stunned. After a while she said, he is not only a manager, he should be the unawakened world consciousness of that plane. Perhaps he didn't even realize the meaning of his existence. Every plane manager exists in a different form. In other words, apart from big shots like Shening, there were also managers like this who didn't even know what a plane was? Lone Moon frowned and looked at him sympathetically. How did you get here? What's your purpose? I am here because of the call of my believers. He looked up, and the white light on his body became even brighter. He didn't seem to be illiterate at all, and his face was holy and inviolable. I sense that your faith here is too weak, So I personally came to spread the gospel. Foolish living beings, you should feel honored. The corner of Loman's mouth twitched. Keep your drama to yourself. Don't you know this is called a plain invasion? What invasion? This is the blessing that this God has bestowed upon you, he said with a righteous expression. I don't care what you want. Our plane doesn't welcome you. Lomun frowned. Since you're the manager, bring your followers back. As he spoke, he immediately formed a hand seal. In an instant, the shadow of a fatty with closed eyes appeared in the room. It was Jingqi. When the Chinibu came over just now, his otherworldly soul had separated from his body. The Chinibu god looked at the fat soul with disdain. Who is this? Your father. Lomun rolled his eyes. After all, he was born from his mother's womb. I am an overgod born of the light. He took a step back, clearly not intending to accept Jingqi. Besides, I came here to spread the gospel. Before the living beings of this world return to the embrace of light, I will not leave. So you want to stay here for a long time? Lomun sneered. The god of light glanced at him, with an expression of bestowing grace. I grant you the honor of serving me. Lomun was so angry that he almost laughed. This was the first time he had seen someone speak shamelessly in such a fresh and refined way. Chef, teach him a lesson. With a swoosh, I Ching took out a kitchen knife and said seriously, I only want the wings. With that said, he walked over. The stupid god's face turned pale, and his arrogant expression crumbled. He took a step back subconsciously. Wait, what do you want? You will be punished for being disrespectful to the gods. Stop. I Ching turned a deaf ear to him, and pressed him to the ground with a wave of sword chi. He picked up his wings with one hand. Yes, there were two of them. One was roasted and the other was fried. Just right. Seeing that the other party's sword was about to fall, the Chinibu god screamed, I'll tell you. I'll talk, okay? Chef. I Ching finally let go, a look of pity on his face. He had only plucked half of the wing's feathers. The Chinibu god crawled up from the ground. His arrogant expression was now pitiful as he hugged his half-balled wings and curled into a ball. I did feel the summoning, and I also sensed the aura of the spring of life. That's why I came over. He explained in a low voice. The spring of life gives birth to all living things, but the spring of life in our world suddenly disappeared. If this goes on, no one will be born in our world, so you're here for the spring. Lomun thought of the spring of pregnancy. Yes. He nodded weakly. The spring of life is the source of a world. Unless I find it, even if you eat me, I will not leave. Lomun and Shunning exchanged a look. Shunning then took out the cube containing the golden spring water. You mean this? The spring of life? The Chinibu god's eyes lit up. He was so excited that he wanted to rush over, but he glanced at I Ching, who was holding a knife, and shrank back weakly. His eyes, however, were fixed on the box in Shenying's hands. Shunning waved her hand in the air. Instantly, the air twisted and a white passageway appeared. They could faintly see a golden building inside, filled with the aura of a Chinibu. Here. She tossed the box containing the spring water to him. This is for you. Go back. Don't come any closer. For the sake of your IQ. The Chinibu god paused. He looked at the spring of life in his hands, then at Shenying. You're really giving it to me? Yes. Shenying nodded. The Chinibu god still looked incredulous. All right. Go back once you find it. Lomun pulled Jingqi up from the ground and pushed him towards the plain passageway. He conjured a seal and condensed Jingqi's soul into a ball of light. He shoved it to him. Take care of your believer. The Chinibu god, who had obtained the spring of life so easily, was confused. He did not expect them to be so easy to talk to. They had just threatened to eat his wings. He felt a warmth in his heart. He looked at the three of them, then at the spring water in his hands. His eyes were filled with gratitude. He opened his mouth, as if he wanted to say something. After a while, he took a deep breath and said seriously, I've decided to bless you. Be grateful, stupid Aya. Get lost. Before he could finish, Lomun's mouth twitched. He kicked him into the door. MDZZ. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel, We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.